Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll see what happens. We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I am a dissident.
Don't move. Vote.
I'm saying no while you hear Palantir, 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 Palantir. It's not going to be stopped.
Seriously, we need to release the Epstein list.
Turns off.
I am not a church boy.
Turns off.
They're full-on vampires.
They hate our beef. They hate our beef. They hate our beef because our beef is beautiful and theirs is weak.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome, one and all, to a Tuesday matinee edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobular, of course. You got it? Can you hear me over there? You're drinking your tea? You're muted? Are you still muted? Yeah, you're still muted. That's why. That's what
It wasn't coming off. Hello.
What's going on? What's going on? Got a nice crowd in here to start the day. 663 strong in the YouTube chat, 304 over on Rumble, and 8 in our private members only room. We are doing a member post game today. We have a big segment on Israeli settlers that is coming up in the post game for members only, and then we will be doing a little Q&A this afternoon. Last chance to talk to Russ before he disappears into China for about 6 weeks, although you will get to watch him again on Thursday. Thursday will be Russell's last show for a while. Not forever, we hope, knock on wood. You know, hopefully all goes well. But yeah, that's the plan. That's the plan. But in the meantime, you got another video to plug, right? From Cambodia.
I'm gonna be working in the camp with the Uyghurs by the time this is all over.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yes. All right. So I finally got to part 1 of Me Lies. So this tour had 3 different stops. The first of the stops was Kian Village, which was a village that was a hotbed of Viet Cong activity during the war. And the tour, I had my tour guide with me to translate, but it was basically being led by a Viet Cong veteran, Mr. Tan. You can see there on the right, and my guide there, Ben, on the left. So we're going to take a look at just a little bit of this. It is up on the channel now if you want to check out more of it. So I asked him, because this is one of the things I was very curious about in Vietnam. What do they think of these Vietnam movies? So I asked Ben that. Vietnamese people think of the Forrest Gump movie and the way it portrayed the Vietnam War?
Most Vietnamese people don't know that movie, like Forrest Gump or The Deer Hunters. But as a tour guide, I watch many American movies to understand their point of view. And I think in a lot of Hollywood movies, they portray the American soldiers as heroes, or they are suffering through in mental illness because of Vietnamese people, and they portray Vietnamese people as cruel as the animals. Yeah.
What do you think of the torture scenes in The Deer Hunter?
It could be real, but maybe the American side even did something more horrible than that to the Vietnamese people. The American government said they would bring Hanoi back to the Stone Age. They bomb everything. So in Hanoi, in the north, they moved factories, nursery, hospitals and schools underground. So a lot of bombing in the north. They did horrible things. So I think torturing the Viet Cong would not be something rare. So this is the entrance to the tunnel. It's called Cửa Hầm Cây Rơm.
All right, here we go. Down into the tunnels.
Nowadays, for visitors, they reinforce this. They widen it.
Right.
And reinforce with the
Is that because the Westerners are too fat?
Yeah. And too tight for modern Vietnamese people too. Yeah. But in the past it was smaller, lower, and mainly just bamboo and wood to make sure the tunnel would not collapse. Even without the bombing, this area is sandy. It collapses easily, so they use bamboo and wood to reinforce. Okay, we will walk just a little bit further.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's mind your head. Yep.
Yeah, so this is not a tour if you have claustrophobia. You don't want to do this tour.
He's got to be in good shape to do this as often as he does.
Yo, the old man goes through there like he was down there, setting Ponzi traps last week.
You stop right there. Hands in the air. Yeah. Hands in the air like you don't care. Okay.
They got me. They got me. It's going to be like the deer hunter.
Yeah.
They're going to put me in the water trap.
So if you want, we can come out, or he would join us to lead us to the much further.
So let's do that.
Yeah.
And so we did. So if you want to check it out, that is over on my channel, Russ on the Road. Part 2, like, I've organized the footage for the second part. Realistically, that's not going to drop until I'm in China. Like, I don't see how I would get that done this week. But that means it should come out like next week, part 2, which will actually be in the village of My Lai, the site of the massacre, where you have the old foundations of the houses that they burned down in the actual village. You got the canal. I mean, I didn't know these details of the story. Like, they herded everyone into a canal so they couldn't get away, and they just mowed them down with machine guns. That canal is there, commemorated. Like, it's pretty crazy. So that'll be the next part. But this is part 1. Check it out if you haven't. And part 2 will drop soon.
All right. So that's a Russ on the Road NYC. That's the YouTube link, youtube.com/@. Make sure you put that @ symbol on, @Russ on the Road NYC, to watch the rest of that. It was about a 28-minute video, so we saw very little of it just there.
That's 28 minutes. Yeah, and I am, before I leave Southeast Asia, which means Cambodia, I am going to do a live stream from the grounds of the hotel where I have Wi-Fi, so I can live stream. So I will be doing a live stream. I am pretty sure the best time for me is going to be Thursday morning, so that'll be Wednesday night for you sports fans.
So, yeah. So make sure you're subscribed to Russ on the Road NYC. That's the channel. All right. We got 1,031 in the YouTube chat. We got 359 filing in over on Rumble. Thanks very much for being here. Smash that like button. Help us get an even bigger crowd in here, please. And thank you very much. We got a lot going on today. It is Tuesday. We're starting to call Tuesday Taco Tuesday, since it's the beginning of the week and it's time to juice the market. So good news Tuesday, Taco Tuesday. First, a little step back in time. 8 days ago, here is Donald Trump setting up people for defeat, saying the Strait of Hormuz may be jointly controlled by me and the Ayatollah, whoever the Ayatollah is. We can all share it. We can share it. That would be a lovely end to the story, right? Just like a children's nursery rhyme. We learn how to share. Right? Here's Donald Trump setting us up for that.
Will Iran still be able to control the flow of oil?
Be jointly controlled.
By who?
Maybe me. Maybe me.
You want the United States to be in
Me
control
and
of
the Ayatollah, whoever the Ayatollah is, whoever the next Ayatollah. Look,
Well, sing a song.
and there'll also be a form
Sing
of
the
a
YMCA.
very serious form of a regime change. Now, in all fairness, everybody's been killed from the regime.
Okay, yeah, we remember. We got it. We got it. Well, here he was just a few days ago. They have to open up the Strait of Hormuz. So here he is getting a little more bellicose. This must have been, what, Thursday, Friday, judging by the calendar here?
The Strait of Hormuz.
Oh.
Excuse me for this. I'm
Yeah.
so sorry.
I'm so sorry. See, yeah, this would have been Friday because the 28th was a Saturday. So, see, I act like a belligerent, unstable asshole at the end of the week so that the market drops. And then on Monday, I act like a reasonable person so that the market goes up. Yeah. So at the beginning of the week, yeah, we're going to share it. At the end of the week, we call it the Strait of Trump. I mean, the Strait of Hormuz. They have to give it up. They have to give it up. You know, it goes in cycles, folks. It goes in cycles. So,
No, the Iran. I don't know if you got that. Iran has started reporting on it, advising people when to short the market based on Trump's statements.
Yeah, based on Trump's statements. Yeah, it's not bad advice. It's not bad advice, it seems. So here we go. Here we go. Is yesterday. Yesterday's, of course, Monday, right? So here we go. It's Good News Monday. Donald Trump says the U.S. will blow up and completely obliterate Iran's power plants. Oh no, that's not so good news. Huh? Interesting. Well, let's read the actual truth. The United States of America is in serious discussions with a new and more reasonable regime to end our military operations in Iran. All right. Well, that sounds good so far. Great progress has been made, but if for any reason a deal is not shortly reached, which it probably will be, and if the Hormuz Strait is not immediately open for business, we will conclude our lovely stay in Iran by blowing up and completely obliterating all of their electric generating plants, oil wells, and Karg Island, and possibly all desalinization plants. So in other words, that's a war crime. Those are multiple war crimes he just threatened.
Yep.
Which we have purposefully not yet touched. Only the Jews have touched them, but we have not. They didn't say that. Which we have purposely not yet touched. This will be in retribution.
They have offered reparations in the form of free tailoring for 5 years to all these citizens of Iran.
Yeah, right, exactly. This will be in retribution for our many soldiers and others that Iran has butchered and killed over the old regime's 47-year reign of terror, which I didn't call the 37-year reign of terror when I ran 10 years ago. If it's a 47-year reign of terror, you think I'd have brought it up over my previous 3 campaigns. But no.
Yeah.
Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. All right. So he kind of mixed it up a little bit there. Gave you some good news to juice the markets, but also mixed in a pretty hostile threat. Trump threatens to obliterate Iran's energy and water infrastructure, reports Axios. President Trump threatened on Monday that if a deal with Iran is not shortly reached, and if the Hormuz Strait isn't open immediately, the U.S. will completely obliterate Iran's power, energy, and water infrastructure. Destroying those facilities would not only have devastating implications for Iranian civilians, it could also deepen the war-driven global energy crisis. The threat comes a week before Trump's latest deadline for Iran expires, and with the regime showing few signs of bending. As of Sunday night, Iran hasn't given the mediators an official response to the U.S. 15-point proposal for ending the war, though state media reported Iran had rejected Trump's terms. Yeah, it seems pretty definitive to me. After Trump extended his original deadline to destroy Iran's power plants, the Pakistani government brokered an understanding with Tehran to allow 20 commercial ships to pass through the Strait of Hormuz in the next few days. The Iranians also haven't given a final answer to the U.S. proposal to hold a high-level meeting in the next few days. White House envoy Steve Witkoff said on Friday that he believes such a meeting could take place this week. So here is Carolyn Levitt yesterday being asked. The president said we might blow up and completely obliterate all of their power plants. What's with that?
About, his threat that on leaving Iran, he said we might blowing up and completely obliterating all of their electric generating plants, oil wells, Karg Island, and possibly all desalinization plants. Under international law, striking civilian infrastructure like that is generally prohibited. Why is the president threatening what would amount to potentially a war crime with the U.S. military? And how do you square that with the administration repeatedly saying that the U.S. does not target civilians?
You know it's a war crime? My husband's 62-year-old balls.
Yeah.
I got to suck those things, mister.
That's a war crime.
Next question.
Yeah, next question.
Moment in time, as evidenced by the statement that you just read, that their best move is to make a deal, or else the United States Armed Forces has capabilities beyond their wildest imagination, and the president is not afraid to use them. That's not what I said, Garrett. And you're saying the word potential for a reason, because I'm sure some experts are telling you that in your ear to try to ask me that question.
No, that's not what the word potential means. That would, if he said possible war crimes, then that would be what you're referring to. She said you use the word potential because I'm sure you have some experts in your ear who are telling you those are war crimes, implying that he's not sure as to whether or not those are war crimes. He would have used the word possible if that's what he meant. The reason he used potential is because we haven't done it yet. But he's quite certain, as he should be, that if we were to do that, yes, that would be a war crime. Not that it matters. I mean, we're not a member of the ICC, so, you know, might makes right and all. But no, that is not what he meant by potential.
Of
You've
course,
made
this
your
administration
judgment,
and the
now
United
try
States
to enforce it.
Yeah, exactly.
Armed Forces will always act within the confines of the law. But with respect to achieving the full objectives of Operation Epic Fury, President Trump is going to move forward unabated, and he expects the Iranian regime to make a deal with the administration.
Now, as we're going to get into, and as I'm sure you all know, the objectives of Operation Epic Fury seem to change by the hour, much less by the day. But the Wall Street Journal has reported, and this article is paywalled and it's not archived, but there's plenty of reporting on this on their reporting. So President Trump is willing to end the Iran war, even if the Strait of Hormuz remains closed, per the Wall Street Journal. Details include Trump and his aides assess that a mission to reopen Hormuz would push the conflict beyond his timeline of 4 to 6 weeks. Yeah, I would say at best. Trump believes the U.S. should achieve its main goals of destroying Iran's navy and missile stockpiles. So, in other words, not regime change anymore, according to this piece. Trump thinks he can wind down current hostilities while pressuring Iran diplomatically to resume the, quote, free flow of trade, which they already said is not going to happen. They said they're going to charge a toll for the Strait of Hormuz now moving forward. If that fails, which it most likely will, Washington would press allies in Europe and the Gulf to take the lead on reopening the strait. U.S. officials say, okay, more on that at the end of the segment because we had some late breaking before we went on. But hey, can we get some clarification on this? Now the White House is saying we may end the Iran war even if the Strait of Hormuz isn't fully reopened, which seems to counter the threat from just the day before, where he's like, they better reopen it or we're going to attack their power plant. So let's see. Maybe we can get some answers.
For obtaining a nuclear weapon. The full reopening of the strait is something the administration is working towards, but the core objectives of the operation have been clearly defined for the American people by the commander-in-chief.
Have they? I don't know. I'm not so clear on them. When Trump made his 3 a.m. announcement in the baseball cap, he urged the Iranians to rise up and overthrow their government, making regime change a pretty unmistakable goal of the war. But we are now chasing it, as they say in gambling, folks. Chasing it is when you lose a pile of money at the beginning of the card game and you spend the rest of your time at the table just desperately trying to make it back and get back to even so you can go home not bankrupt. And that seems to be
the sunk cost fallacy.
Yes, and that seems to be a best case scenario right now. So here's Marco Rubio again yesterday explaining the goals again of the war. Here he is.
Okay, and that's what this is. It's about very specific objectives. The president laid them out on the first night of the operation. I'll repeat them to you now because I hear a lot of talk about we don't know what the clear objectives are. Here they are. You should write them down. Number one, the destruction of their Air Force. Number two, the destruction of their Navy. Number three, the severe diminishing of their missile launching capability. And number four, the destruction of their factories so they can't make more missiles and more drones to threaten us in the future.
And number five is regime change, right?
So they can never hide behind it to acquire a new nuclear weapon.
Oh, no.
That was our objective from the
No
beginning.
regime change
that
anymore?
remains our objective now. We are on pace and, in fact, ahead of schedule on some of those things. And we are going to achieve those things in a number of weeks, not in a number of months.
Oh, interesting. So no more talk about the people overthrowing the government, I guess. I guess regime change is off the table now. So, yeah, folks, this is what you call chasing it. This is what you call chasing it. Because don't forget, according to Donald Trump, we had obliterated their military capabilities during the 12-day war. Their nuclear program totally obliterated. Then they changed it to missiles so that they could justify this. But, of course, the purpose of this was regime change. And now it looks like we're just trying to get back to even, back to where we started. Seems like that to me. So in case this is a real taco, and in case we are thinking about backing out before we commit these war crimes, here is Senator Chris Coons yesterday, absolute bombshell on live TV. Chris Coons confirms Israel intentionally assassinated the exact Iranian leader the Trump administration was trying to negotiate peace with. See? So not getting out of this so easily.
It's a great question to which there isn't a great answer. President Trump, several days into the war, made it clear that he had thought that Larijani, one of the senior elected leaders of the Iranian government, was someone with whom he or his administration might have negotiated, but the Israelis assassinated him. The Israelis have attacked over and over the senior leadership of the intelligence services, of the IRGC, of the Ayatollah and his close advisors, and that has made it difficult for us to assess exactly who's in charge. But we do know this. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard, the IRGC, has a pretty firm grip on the country and has been trained in how to continue aggressive operations even when there isn't a clear central command. So I don't, in the near term, see an easy path towards there being a real change in the government or the regime in Iran.
Yeah, man, that could be.
Hang on, is this the guy that Trump keeps saying he's negotiating with?
According to Chris Coons,
just breaking.
This was last night. This was last night. So according to Chris Coons, the Israelis are going out of their way to make things harder. Very out of character for them, of course.
Yeah, no.
But hey, this could explain why there are now over 50,000 American troops in the Middle East. The arrival of 2,500 Marines and another 2,500 sailors is keeping the number of American troops in the region at roughly 10,000 more than usual. So that is where we stood as of early this morning. But later this morning, we got another banger from Donald Trump here. All of those countries, remember earlier in the segment where we said now, Europe's going to have to do this themselves at some point. Well, I guess this is that some point he's talking about, at least, at least until Thursday or Friday, right? All of those countries that can't get jet fuel because of the Strait of Hormuz, like the United Kingdom, which refused to get involved in the decapitation of Iran, I have a suggestion for you. Number one, buy from the U.S. We have plenty. Number two, build up some delayed courage, go to the Strait, and just take it. You'll have to start learning how to fight for yourself. The USA won't be there to help you anymore, just like you weren't there for us. Iran has been essentially decimated. The hard part is done. Go get your own oil, President Donald J. Trump. Go get your own oil. All right, look, it's a little, you feel a little weird making this point because this is a point that is, I guess, technically true, but not true in reality. NATO is supposed to be, and this is why I say it's weird to make this point because it doesn't function this way, of course. But it's supposed to be a defensive treaty. In other words, it's supposed to be if a NATO country is attacked, everybody jumps in for the defense of the country that's attacked. Right? It's not an offensive treaty. It's not one country decides to go to war with another one and everybody jumps in to decimate the other country. Now, of course, we know NATO is weaponized for offensive reasons. So there's a huge asterisk next to that point. But what he's saying there is just a misunderstanding of the premise of NATO, as much as it has strayed from that premise in reality. But Peter Schiff, I think, puts it very well here. Based on Trump's latest post, here's the victory some Americans died for and the rest of us will pay for with debt and inflation. The regime stays in power, grows even more hardline. Iranians hate America even more, and oil prices stay permanently higher. Other than that, we win. Yeah, basically, that's basically it. And that is, I think, accurate but incomplete. Don't forget, there's been reporting now in mainstream outlets that Iran has rendered U.S. military bases in the surrounding countries uninhabitable. Troops are staying in, hotels or moving out to Europe. So they have forced an American retreat from the region. These Gulf states are now more in debt to Iran than ever, more under the thumb of Iran than ever, because now Iran is going to control the Strait of Hormuz. Now Iran gets to set up a nice little toll booth at that Strait of Hormuz and charge people money to go through. And we are more alienated from our allies than we've ever been, because we came very, very close, and came is probably not the right word. I shouldn't be using past tense because none of this is a done deal. But I'm just saying, assuming this is the real taco, assuming this is how it all ends, we got totally pwned here. Totally pwned. This is total defeat. This is total surrender. And I hope, knock on wood, that this is how this resolves. Of course, I'm not betting on that because we have 50,000 troops there. So the smart money, I think, is that this is the beginning of the week, juice the market with good news sort of angle here. But if we assume it isn't, it is, of course, a complete strategic disaster for the United States and a total strategic victory for Iran. And this is the best case scenario at this point, because the alternative is going to be a humanitarian disaster that the world has not seen in many, many, not years, not decades, generations. So let's hope this is the real Taco Tuesday, though I'm not getting my hopes up too much.
Yeah, Arnaud Bertrand tweeted over an article about how they're going to try to open the Strait of Hormuz. A war fought to reverse the consequences of the war. Dumbest war ever. Yeah. The Strait of Hormuz is closed because you started this war. If you had not started this war, you would not need to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. It was open. So your objective now is to fix the problems that were caused by you attacking. And of course, the regime changes out the window because, as it turns out, Iranian society is complicated. It's complicated. You did not have everyone in Iran wanting to overthrow the government. You have some people wanting to overthrow the government. It's hard to ascertain how many people those were, because Mossad openly bragged about the fact that they were behind those protests. So who knows how much of that is organic, how much of it is astroturfed. And hey, you want to give the Iranian people some credit. I wager most of them are smart enough to know that the West has no interest in improving their lives, and they have no interest in going back to some version of the Shah regime, which was so horrific that this basically secular Persian Muslim population decided to throw in with the Ayatollahs to get rid of him. That's how bad he was. And you're pumping up his son, his idiot son. This is who you're cheering at CPAC. In terms of what's really going on, look at what they do, not at what they say. This is all market manipulation. They're moving these Marines, they're moving these troops in. They're not doing that because they're getting ready to pull out. They're doing that because they're getting ready to pull some kind of ground invasion. They're not going to walk away. They're not smart enough to do that. If they were smart enough to do that, they wouldn't have done this in the first place. They should walk away, but nah. If there's anyone who's going to keep rolling the dice, hoping they're going to come up sixes, it's going to be these guys.
Could be. I think that's where the smart money is at this point. But when you look at the numbers here, I mean, Trump's numbers are now as low as ever. Now he's struggling to crack 30. Struggling to crack 30. I mean, forget about 40. 40% would be a good pull for him at this point. It is.
To what you're saying, it's especially being in this part of the world. I'm looking around, and Southeast Asia, we covered it the other night, is particularly hard hit by a closing of the Strait of Hormuz. How long before they turn around and say, you know what? We're not with these guys. Iran, what do you need to let our ships through? What do you need to let our ship? Yeah,
Of course,
you need
that's
us to
what it's-
close American bases. We'll close American
Of course.
bases. Fine.
Of course. Like they have the Iranians had the upper hand from minute one. It was the most obvious thing in the world. That's why, as compromised as all of our presidents are, none of them went this far. None of them went this far because this could only go this way. It was just the most obvious thing in the world. All right. Let's take some super chats and some Rumble rants over here. Mark Pugliese. I watched the Vietnam video. I thought how we fucked those poor people up so bad. Then the kids came out and mobbed you. I cried my eyes out first time in years. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Look at that, Mark.
Those kids, those kids are really sweet.
Yeah, sweet kids. Yeah, it's a nice video. Should definitely watch it. Sorry, Russ. I meant to give you $20. Oh,
yeah, that's what they all say.
That's what they all say. He gave us,
what? I got to pick up the rest of the check.
Yeah,
Is that
yeah.
what you're saying?
No, he gave you 2 10s. He gave you 2 10s. That's why, because he meant to give you 20 the first time.
Oh, I see.
Nocturnal Human. I'll miss you, Russell. When you come back, you will be the Kung Ju Panda. Haha. Good one.
Yeah, nah. I went through the whole itinerary. Yeah, no, you can go to the Crouching Tiger Monastery. It's optional, but I'm taking that option.
Of course. Vianticus, everything's a scam, everything's a lie, everything's hypocrisy, and so you don't comply. Thank you, Vianticus. Just in, Israel halts weapon sales to France, citing hostile attitude towards Israel over the last 2 years. Oh, interesting. I didn't know they sold weapons.
Does France buy weapons from
Yeah, they buy weapons from
Well,
Israel. I
this
didn't know
generally goes the other way.
that. Yeah, that's what I thought too. Me Shoot Skeet, thanks for the $3 super sticker. Appreciate that. Love from Bahrain. Keaton, would you be down for video game movie OST recommendations, like soundtrack? Yeah, there are some absolute bangers out there. Yeah, of course. I know there are some great soundtracks.
I thought you were asking him to play video games. I was like, this guy?
No. Yeah, no. But soundtracks, yeah, sure, of course. Mr. Measy, when you said more on that, I thought you were saying moron as in referring to Carolyn Levitt. I love you guys. Break the chains. Thank you. That would have fit as well. For sure. Oban the King. Did you guys see the skit that Drewski did impersonating Erica Kirk? Haha. I never actually watched it. Like, I saw it circulating online. I'm not even clear who that Drewski character is.
Who is that?
I'm not really hip. I mean, I've seen their stuff around, but I'm not really sure what they're all about. Andy Gardner said Lindsey Graham vacationing in Disneyland, apparently. Yep. We need to figure out what the hell is going on down there. Well, did you see my tweet? I said, no wonder Goofy's walking funny. That explains it. All right. Let's move right on along here.
All right. So JD Vance mostly has kind of been keeping a low profile during all this, although he did just go on a podcast. He's doing some press conferences. It seems like they're trying to figure out how Peter Thiel can get his man in the White House and, have him back a war that I'm sure Thiel is salivating over with all the money it means for Palantir to have this going on, while at the same time, he doesn't want to ruin his Golden Boy's chances. So this video pretty effectively laid out the history of JD Vance, who he is, where he came from, who supported him. That's important context for this segment.
Trump revealing his pick for vice president. Senator JD Vance, now his running mate.
JD Vance was elected to the Senate in 2022 and went from being a staunch critic of former President Trump to one of his strongest allies.
Compared him to Hitler, remember that?
Nominee.
Mm-hmm.
Who is this guy?
Anybody who goes through 4 names, man, that's someone trying to invent themselves. Ohio State University, graduated from Yale Law School. And then he goes into venture capital. Mithril. He gets himself a patron.
Mr. Peter Thiel hires him in 2016. Same year Vance releases his book. That's a lot of media. Starts a VC fund for Silicon Valley startups, Naria Capital. Key investors. Peter Thiel. Oh look, Humpty Dumpty. That image, that was like a Joe Rogan gangbang party there. Those are like that's like everybody who's ass fucked Joe Rogan happening. Look at that. Palantir. Don't know why you hear Palantir. And then he announces a Senate run. Who backs that Senate run? Peter Thiel gives him $15 million for his 2022 campaign. It's his boy right there. Mr. fucking the Antichrist is Greta Thunberg or some shit. As JD Vance was sponsored. Wins himself that
I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him. I mean, Donald Trump has given me an incredible honor.
I'm just gonna say quickly, isn't that weird? Isn't that weird? JD that Thiel hires this guy and he's got a book ready to go. Almost looks like an op, doesn't it? This book is ready to go as soon as Thiel hires this guy at the same exact time.
Write a book about where you stick your dick in a between a couch cushion. The rednecks love that. It'll make you very relatable.
That'll make you relatable. And you use some of that cheese whiz lube on the Sealy Posturepedic there.
Yeah. Pour some Mountain Dew on a pillow. Fucking good.
Top stock of Trump's first 100 days. Palantir. And I'm going to get them to try to create this database on every American.
Heir apparent to MAGA. It's JD Vance.
Well, I think most likely, in all fairness, he's the vice president. Though it's too early, obviously, to talk about it, but certainly he's doing a great job, and he would be probably favored at this point.
Elon Musk reportedly eyeing JD Vance for 2028. After he got popped in the eye by the center there. And then you got Whitney talks about this a lot. PayPal Mafia. All these guys seem to converge on JD Vance. They all seem to like JD Vance. Almost like he's if you remade the Manchurian Candidate for the 21st century, the Manchurian Candidate would be a guy who's backed by Silicon Valley, like JD Vance. He's the Silicon Valley Manchurian Candidate. This guy, he's the stalking horse for these Silicon Valley interests, right? Hotspot. Hey man, if you don't already follow Hotspot, give him a follow because this is pretty impressive. This is from July 2024. Our friend Mad Crab over there. Connect the dots. Jewish billionaire Peter Thiel donated over $15 million to JD Vance's Senate campaign and brought him, remember this? Brought him to Mar-a-Lago to patch up his Never Trump stance. Remember that? They called him Hitler, right? They had to patch that up before he could get on the ticket. Thiel organized that. Thiel owns Palantir, whose AI tech has helped the IDF target over 45,000 Palestinians, securing billion-dollar contracts with Tel Aviv. Going to war with Iran would equate to billions of dollars in profit for both Peter Thiel and Palantir. That's pretty damn good, man. July 2024. Look at that. Look at that. Give him a follow if you don't already. And hey, look at the shape shifting he did during the campaign itself. You know, everybody's watching the big guy and, you know, Hulk Hogan ripping off his shirt or whatever the hell at Madison Square Garden. You know, he kind of flew under the radar during that campaign. You know, everyone's laughing at him at the donut shop and all that. But if you look at what he's actually doing during that campaign, you can see what a just empty vessel this guy is. So here he is in August 2024.
That America ought to be tough and America ought to have a strong foreign policy. But when people like Kamala Harris send our sons and daughters, our young people, to fight in stupid wars, it is the young generation that carries the burden of that. We're going to stop sending our young people to faraway lands. We are not the policemen of the world. We need to use our young people here at home.
All right, so here he is in the VP debate. I believe this is October. And if anybody had been paying attention, what he says here is pretty revealing a few months later.
Situation room. Would you support or oppose a preemptive strike by Israel on Iran?
Now, you asked about a preemptive strike, Margaret, and I want to answer the question. Look, it is up to Israel what they think they need to do to keep their country safe, and we should support our allies wherever they are when they're fighting the bad guys. I think that's the right approach to take with the Israel question.
Wow. Okay.
I forgot all about that.
Yep.
We were all psyoped at the time. We were all watching that to wonder how gay Tim Walz was going to sound. And we just weren't paying attention when JD Vance was talking. That was probably a mistake.
I mean, it's true that Tim Walz was an awful pick. Was an absolutely awful pick because the focus was on how, they were running the most cringe campaign imaginable to try to promote this guy as some kind of new version of masculinity. And nobody was buying that. That was part of the whole, I braid my daughter's hair and I'm voting for a woman. Like it was probably the most cringe presidential campaign in history, without a doubt. But here, they let him out at a press conference. This was the first press conference that he did after the Iran war started, the second one, I should say.
The American people know options for what? And it's options to ensure that Iran never has a nuclear weapon. You talk about people who walk into a crowded supermarket and have a vest on, and they blow up the vest and a couple of people get killed, and that's a terrible tragedy. What happens when what's on the vest is not something that can kill a couple of people, but can kill many, many tens of thousands of people? That is the most important American national security objective that exists for any administration at any time, is you don't want the worst people in the world to have a nuclear weapon. That's why the president is doing this. That's why the president cares
we
so
have
much
one
about this
so
particular issue.
We already failed at that mission. We'd have to get rid of ours if we don't want the worst people in the world to have a nuclear weapon. But Leighton Woodhouse had a good response to this. Have you guys even considered what might happen if Iran achieves the ability to shoot lasers out of their eyeballs or emit electromagnetic pulses from their brains or become invisible? Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what that is. Yeah, no, we have to destroy the world economy and potentially cause global famine because, something that's absolutely never happened in history, an Iranian suicide bomber in a supermarket could happen. Could happen. So doesn't that justify all this? Right. So hey, look, man, he's still very chummy with his old Silicon Valley pals, or you might say his patrons. AF Post. This last week, VP JD Vance is hosting a fundraiser tonight at Palantir co-founder Joe Lonsdale's home in Austin, according to an invitation, with tickets priced at $50,000 per person and $100,000 per couple. An ardent Zionist, Lonsdale has long advocated regime change in Iran and is currently supportive of the war. So as we'll get into, there's a lot of emphasis, rightly so, on JD Vance's ties to kind of the philosophies of Curtis Yarvin and Peter Thiel and this whole Silicon Valley vision of basically like a neo-monarchy. There's not been a lot of focus on how much he is owned and influenced by Zionists and how much he's surrounded by Zionists, Lonsdale being one, of course, Peter Thiel being one, Alex Karp being one. I mean, Elon, I think, is a compromised one. I don't think he believes it in his heart. I think they got some shit on that island of him that forced him to bend the knee. But the rest of them are true believers. So here he is, Vance, March 23rd, man, host committee, 250,000 a couple. He's the big get at this dinner just last week, March 23rd. Which brings us to our friend Tucker Carlson here. Tucker Carlson recently had some very kind words to say about a guy who I don't think you need to have my advanced Googling skills to see that things are really off about JD Vance. But here's Tucker, supposed to be a really shrewd observer of the political scene. Here he is singing Vance's praises.
It's in our interest to wrap this up in a way that protects core American interests, of course, that avoids unnecessary humiliation, that brings some stability to the region, as they say, but wrap it up. And the administration understands this. The Trump administration clearly understands this, because news reports just in the last 24 hours have told us that the president is thinking about, or planning to, depending on who you believe, dispatch the vice president to hammer out some kind of deal with the Iranians. And if that happens, and we don't know, just repeating what we read, then that's a pretty clear sign that the administration wants to declare victory and move on, certainly to move on. And they probably couldn't pick a more credible person to do it. Ideology aside, Vice President is smart, he's honest. He's not one of the people who's gotten richer in government service. He's probably one of the people who got poorer in government service, which is a pretty good measure of someone's moral rectitude. And he understands power dynamics.
So you got to ask yourself, why is Tucker Carlson, this, radical rebel, ex-Fox journalist, this truth teller, why is he selling you this obvious Silicon Valley plant? Why is he selling you that? And also notice something else. Whatever, hey man, is it, do I take great joy in watching Carlson make Mike Huckabee squirm in an interview? Absolutely, sure. At the same time, have you ever seen him go after Donald Trump? Have you ever seen that guy? I mean, really go after? Listen to what he's saying. Well, the administration that lit the world on fire clearly understands that it has to put it out. They understand that. What's he doing? What's he doing? He's presenting this administration as somehow reasonable. Does this track with the things he says he believes, that he's so accommodating to this administration? There's kind of a pattern that people who are obvious psyops seem to get a seal of approval from Tucker Carlson, and there might be a couple of reasons for that we'll take a look at. David Icke, listen, man, I didn't believe that reptilian overlords run the world, but this guy dropped so many base takes. I'm starting to wonder. What nonsense. Carlson says of the man his son works for, JD Vance is honest and credible. Son works for him. And Candace Owens says she trusts Vance because her mate Carlson does. How about Palantir's Prince of Darkness, Peter Thiel, funding Vance's entire political career and pushing for him to be vice president? What about the catastrophic mayhem unfolding in the world while Vance ass kisses the deranged president? What about Vance pushing for the takeover of Greenland? The man is owned by the cult, for goodness sake, like the entire Trump regime. Something not right here. Yes, absolutely. Hey, wasn't just Thiel that sold JD Vance to Trump. How Tucker Carlson helped sell JD Vance as Trump's running mate. The former Fox News host warned Donald Trump that two other running mate contenders, Senator Marco Rubio of Florida and Governor Doug Burgum of North Dakota, could not be trusted. This is kind of weird, man. Peter Thiel pushed this guy, And so did Tucker Carlson. And now here's Tucker Carlson running cover for JD Vance, who's doing nothing but expressing support for this war, creating fantasy scenarios of mysterious Iranians that are going to blow you up while you're shopping for Oreos.
Well, not only that, very quick interjection. Rubio and Burgum both made their way into the cabinet anyway. Rubio is Secretary of State. Burgum is, I think, Interior. So, yeah, they both got in there anyway. It's not like you boxed them out. You can argue the Secretary of State has more power than the Vice President, right? Secretary of State's a more powerful position.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Tucker Carlson's son, Buckley, lands a high-profile role on J.D. Vance's team. Big club. You ain't in it. After serving as an aide on Capitol Hill for years, 28-year-old Buckley Carlson will now join the vice president's communication staff. Listen, man, if you had told me we would one day live in a world where working people think they're champions or people who name their kids Buckley, I would have told you were crazy. And let's not forget, Vance is a wall fucker. He's a wall fucker. There he is, fucking that wall. He's fucking that wall. I thought Carlson is a big anti-Zionist guy. Why is he promoting this wall fucker? He's an open wall fucker. Look at him. Right there, right out broad daylight. He's fucking that wall. And that's not all. That's not all. Until I delved into this piece, I didn't even know about this. I didn't even know about his chief of staff. This is from Grimaldis. Touch the wall, wants America first with a pro-Israel spin, advocated for bombing Iran in 2024. Chief of staff is literally a Zionist Jew. And people actually believe Vance is better than Trump. So I looked into this. I honestly see nobody really pays attention to this guy. There he is. There's his chief of staff, Jacob Reese's, his conciliary there in the background. Very much like Lutnick always hovers behind Trump, right? Dr. Sam Youssef, PhD. VP JD Vance's 35-year-old chief of staff is Jewish pro-Israel strategist Jacob Reeses. Vance delivered a Jewish wedding prayer at Reese's wedding in January. The vice president hardly goes anywhere without Reeses and maintains a close personal relationship with him. While opposed to mass immigration, abortion, and strong on social issues like transgenderism, Reeses is a fervent Zionist who celebrated the erection of Israel's flag over the rubble of Gaza. Reeses has been outspoken about his Zionism from an early age. At Princeton, Reeses served as treasurer of Tigers for Israel, where he vocally criticized a pro-Palestine student group that targeted the hummus maker Sabra over its alleged links to Israeli human rights abuses in the occupied territories. Yes, boycott Sabra if you eat hummus. Do not eat that. Reeses has publicly advocated for a coalition between conservative Christians and Jews. In September 2025, he reposted Joe Lonsdale's post, and then finally these guys all come back around together, remarking that Jews should no longer be squeamish about the majority's invocation of the Christian deity and other elements of the Christian faith. So he's a Mike Huckabee kind of guy, basically, ideologically. And check this out from New York Magazine did a profile on Reeses and dropped this little nugget in their promotional text. In the fall of 2009, Jacob Reeses enrolled at Princeton as a registered Democrat. By the end of his freshman year, he was interning at the Daily Caller with Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson. Isn't it funny when you start delving into this, how all of these people are all connected? This is very familiar. This is very familiar. There was another very obvious psyop that Tucker Carlson told you was absolutely trustworthy. So much so that you would know who your enemy as an American is if they voted against her confirmation.
which side by the reaction to Tulsi Gabbard. If there are Republican senators who are voting against Tulsi Gabbard's confirmation, then you either in the Intel Committee or in the Open Senate, you will know that person is not only my enemy as someone who voted for change, for openness, for transparency, for an end to corruption, for a draining of the swamp.
Oh, wow.
You know that person is an enemy of the United States. Period. It's really that simple.
They're an enemy of the United States. All right. Most people in the independent media space, by no means all, but most people in the independent media space are not connected people. We're not people with Carlson's background, where he comes from a CIA family, as we'll see. Carlson, being a creature of that world, did not know what Tulsi Gabbard was. He did not know that Tulsi Gabbard was a tool of the deep state, of the establishment that he claims to be against. He didn't know she was a creature that they built, made, and shaped for this moment. He didn't know somebody who runs a PSYOP battalion in Asia is a PSYOP. He didn't know she works for the company. Look, most of us in this space, like me and Keaton, you know, we're sussing things out from the outside. We're not insiders. We've never been insiders. Carlson's been an insider his whole life. He was raised an insider. He didn't know that. He didn't know that. And now he's telling you that JD Vance is a trustworthy man of rectitude. Interesting choice of words. Well, hey, here's Tucker Carlson lying to you about what he knew about his father's CIA affiliations in real time, man. Here he is telling you two different things about this. So the question of whether Tucker Carlson has something to hide or is a liar, that point is moot. That point is moot. Watch this clip.
And I've taken a lot of crap, including from Putin, like, oh, you're from a CIA family. Well, yeah, obviously my father worked in conjunction with CIA. I mean, that's what that is. And I tried to join the CIA, but I'm not being false about it. Native talent. And he's attacking my dad as a CIA, his dad's in the CIA or whatever. And I'm like, well, that's no, untrue. And my father dies, and I learn, actually, yeah, you know, was involved in that world. I was completely shocked by it. So no one has to believe me, but that's just a fact.
Right.
Okay, so he's lying. He's just straight up lying. You can see the year before he's openly acknowledging that his father was in the CIA. Year later, he's claiming he didn't find out until after he died. Now, we've looked at this clip before. We haven't looked at this clip. This is pretty interesting. Alan McLeod, in an unaired interview from 2005, Carlson reveals that he went to Nicaragua in the 1980s, in his own words, to get involved in the war and support the side that was right, which was not the Sandinista side. Okay, so what college kid, and this is what led to the Iran-Contra scandal, by the way. So he's going down there to support the Contras. What college kid who's not working with the CIA is going to Nicaragua in the middle of the scandal that would come to be known as Iran-Contra to support the Contras, as he openly says in this interview? All right, let's take a look.
Summer after my freshman year, my roommate and I decided to go down to Nicaragua for the summer and work and, you know, get involved in the war, you know, and support the side that we thought was right.
What the fuck does that mean?
Which is not the Sandinista side. And
People know that you were actually a freedom fighter who traveled down to Central America to fight with the Contras. Will you fill them in on that story?
No. We spent the summer in Nicaragua trying to get a sense of the war there, and all kinds of hilarity ensued. But
oh no, he wasn't CIA. He wasn't CIA. He was just down. He was hanging out with a right-wing junta, just you know, taking in the temperature down there. And McLeod backs it up with other sourcing. An old newsletter from his college reveals that he went to Nicaragua on at least 2 occasions. It was there in the student newspaper. They reported on it. At the time, this was at a time, again, this is McLeod, this was all at a time when Tucker's dad was head of CIA cutout media group Voice of America, who were waging a relentless propaganda war against Nicaragua in an effort to bring about regime change. Here is Mr. Carlson speaking about his role in bringing down communist countries. This is Carlson's dad here, head of Voice of America at the time.
Broadcasting played a very critical role, as was suggested by Mr. Murdoch, in the events that took place in the USSR and Eastern Europe over the last couple of years. From Beijing to Budapest to Warsaw to Vilnius, information poured across borders, and news that millions of people had stood up to their oppressors helped millions of others sweep those oppressors away. I also believe that international broadcasters were equally important in laying the groundwork for the democratic revolutions that we have seen. Isn't it incredible how Western all of those Eastern Europeans sound in talking about freedom, democracy, free enterprise, environmental concerns? And they didn't get those ideas from their own media or from textbooks in their countries. They got them mainly from international broadcasters like Voice of America, BBC, Radio Liberty, Radio Free Europe.
Okay, so let me get this straight. Tucker Carlson's dad was a guy who worked for the CIA in the capacity of using broadcasting to spread deep state propaganda in order to affect desired outcomes and regime changes. That's what his dad did for a living. Tucker Carlson, at the time that his dad was doing this, goes to Nicaragua in the middle of the Iran-Contra scandal, or it wasn't a scandal yet, but what would become the Iran-Contra scandal, the basis of that scandal. He's going to Nicaragua to give support to a movement that Congress had voted the U.S. cannot get involved in, cannot fund. He's going down there to support this movement that a rogue element in the government, including the president, is contravening Congress to support. And Tucker Carlson is just, I wanted to support the right side. Yeah. And that wasn't on behalf of the CIA when his father's working for the CIA. What makes you think he ever stopped working for the CIA? And what makes you think he doesn't see his job as picking up where his father left off in a new world, right? This is a world where the podcast, that's where you want, before it was Fox News was the place where you want to be to spread propaganda, right? Now it's the podcast world. That's where you want to be to spread propaganda. Too many things he does don't track. Why does he do things like this Mike Huckabee thing? I don't know, man. I mean, Caleb Maupin talks about this a lot. He actually, I would love to take a look at this book. What is it? Cowboys versus Yankees or something. He references that a lot in his work. And it's basically that there are these two wings of the oligarchy at odds. And one would presume that Tucker, given his pedigree, is probably pretty firmly rooted in the old Rockefeller, old money base. And or as Hedges puts it, right, the corporatists, they like stability, they like order, they don't like all this chaos brought about by war and this kind of thing. But it does not track that someone with Carlson's obvious intelligence, talent, knowledge, grew up in this world, doesn't get what JD Vance is. There's no way. There's no universe where Tucker Carlson does not understand what JD Vance is. I don't think there's any universe where Tucker Carlson, when he told you anyone who votes against Tulsi Gabbard is your enemy, I don't think there's any world where he didn't understand what Tulsi Gabbard was. So at that point, you have to ask yourself, why? When you look at the fact pattern, this guy is working for the agencies. He's working for the deep state. And now he may be working for a wing of the deep state that doesn't like some of the things the administration is doing. hence the Mike Huckabee thing, or that could just be a way of getting credibility so that when he tells you JD Vance is the man, you believe him. It could be that. I don't know. I have no way of knowing that. What I do know from looking at all this is Tucker Carlson is not what he tells you he is. That much we can say with certainty. The rest is speculation.
Yeah, maybe. All right, let's go to some super chats and some rumble. No, I'm just kidding. All right, we'll do. Moving on. No. Look, I mean, I think he's definitely been an inside guy. His dad definitely was associated, was a company man, right? I mean, we know that. He seems to admit that right now. He's also an American. He's very pro-American. He's a bit of a Western chauvinist, actually. I mean, he's not as bad as some of these really murderous psychopaths are in terms of their bloodlust for people in Gaza and Lebanon and all that. But no, I mean, he approaches things from the standpoint that the American empire is and can be and should be a force for good. And that is the kind of narrative that you're steeped in, when you grow up in the kinds of circles he grew up in, right? Whether your father's in the CIA or not. And so I think that's kind of where he comes from. Like he is a born and bred American conservative. And so, it's interesting because when you look at this and, not to like rebut anything there, because I think it is an interesting web of contacts that he grew up in and around. But when you look back at the summer of 2025, when you look at all of the things that Charlie Kirk said that made us pull our hair out of our heads, like, hey, I'm going to trust my friends in government and not talk about Epstein anymore. You're like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And then it kind of seemed like, as the months went on and as we learned more and more, that, he was keeping people at arm's length to maintain access in the hopes of maintaining some sort of influence. And so, that could be an explanation for why you gas up JD Vance in a desperate attempt to be like, hey, you know what? If I burn these people too much, they're just not going to listen to me at all anymore. Now, if what he's saying is true about the CIA writing a criminal referral, at that point, it seems like the bridge is already burnt. So I don't know what to make of it, honestly. But for sure, I mean, JD Vance is as dangerous as they come in terms of ushering in a techno-feudal surveillance state. And he hasn't made any courageous moves in terms of speaking out against this war. Joe Kent set the example. If you're a man of courage, if you're a man of integrity, if you're a man of character, you at the very least come out and publicly give the president an ultimatum. Stop this war right now, or I'm out. You don't promote your wife's podcast. You see that his wife now got a children's book podcast where she reads books to the children.
Podcast now.
And he's got a book coming out about his faith now, communion. Guy had time to write a book while he was vice president. Wow. That's interesting.
I mean, his ghostwriter had time to write a book.
Well, now he's got the president. But according to him, he's written it. So, look, I mean, at the end of the day, JD Vance is a joke. Just like Marco Rubio is a joke. They're all a joke. That's why they all got in.
Just like Tulsi Gabbard is a joke.
Right, exactly.
This is why I really look, again, there's no way of knowing all the ins and outs of this. We're outsiders with our noses pressed against the glass. Most people in this space are. Like, we don't fucking know. What I do know is shit from Shinola. And when you're up there lying about knowing about your dad being in the CIA, you were in Nicaragua doing some kind of dodgy work with the Contras during what became the Iran-Contra scandal. And you seem to have a mysterious penchant for backing people who represent agents of what we broadly term the deep state, whatever that is, whether it's the CIA, whether it's something deeper than the CIA that goes beyond the CIA. We don't know, but clearly Tucker is some kind of op who works for somebody, because these takes make no sense with his other takes. And when you put it, yeah, you might be able to say that if you don't have the other context of him lying about his father, of him having clearly worked for the CIA, going back to college. No college kid is going down to just, I just want to talk to some Contras. Come on.
Yeah, that's a nice
Come on.
vacation. Nice
And,
retreat there.
and by
All
the
right,
way,
so
let me
ask you
get
something.
let me get this in here. It takes a village. Kurt Metzger advises me, and he's right. I looked it up, and I didn't think he was. That was a little weird. So Hotspot got a little wrong there. Yeah, Peter Thiel's not Jewish. I didn't think he was Jewish. Karp is Jewish, but yeah, he's not.
What was I going to say? Oh yeah, okay. So so let me ask you, because I think this is the operative point here. Like, whether he's in the CIA or not is almost. I mean, I'm not saying that that's irrelevant, but do you think he really wants to stop the war or not? Because if you're going to say he's an op, yeah, like if you're going to say he's an op and he's there to, just be smoke and mirrors, is he there to create the illusion that he's against the war so that, people who are against the war but still, MAGA, more broadly speaking, don't stray too far from the project? Because, I mean, I think there are multiple incentives that could potentially explain that. Like, I don't know. There's no way. I mean, you don't know either. There's no way to know. But if I had to guess, I mean, I think he is against the war. And I do think he is lobbying to the extent he feels he can to get it under control. What I think all these people are guilty of is vibe mongering and profiteering. During the campaign, Tucker Carlson's going around with fucking Roseanne Barr and Alex Jones and Jack Posobiec, just the most ridiculous from outer space, like almost like religious revivalist bullshit. As opposed to talking any of this.
They got crabs with the head of Hillary Clinton.
Exactly.
They got a whole lab full of them.
Like it was just all vibe mongering, as opposed to talking any of this substantive stuff here, which, as you mentioned there, as you demonstrated in the segment, was out there about JD Vance. Nobody bothered looking into it because it was on brand to not look into it. It was on brand to cast the Biden administration, the Biden cabinet as the deep state, because they were, and Biden was such a non-entity that you saw right through him to the actual deep state functionaries, the Jake Sullivans, the Lloyd Austins, the Anthony Blinkens, right? That was the blob. And then the salt of the earth, God-fearing humans were going to come and take things over. And when you exaggerate that narrative to such a ridiculous extent that you got fucking Roseanne Barr coming on there talking about they're all vampire, I mean, like that's the stuff that I think Tucker and many, many, many others, not just Tucker, indulged way too much. Now, why he did that? I mean, I don't know why. I just don't know why.
Look, I hate to say this, man. I think the game is so rigged that if Carlson were not working for the company, he wouldn't be where he is. I don't think they would allow that. I really don't. Like they might have some disagreements among themselves up to a point, but in the end, when they push a button and say, "Yeah, Vance is our guy," you got to go with that. If you don't go with that, you got to go one way or another.
We'll see. Everybody's got their opinion. I mean, it's a tough thing to figure. Ultimately, what matters to me is what he says, and if he's actually lobbying to get this war wrapped up, which I mean, I think he probably is. I think he probably is, just like Joe Kent is. Like they say, well, Joe Kent's deep state. Well, yeah, of course he's deep. He was second in line to Tulsi Gabbard. Like I kind of take the same approach to Tucker as I take to Joe Kent, as I take to everybody, quite frankly. Like whether I like them or trust them is really not even relevant.
Hey, man, this is not the first time I've done something.
I'm not
examining Tucker like that.
Sure.
He does another interview where he makes a ghoul like Mike Huckabee shit himself. I'll cover it favorably.
Right. Sure.
But I'm saying, like, you need to take Tucker Carlson with a grain of salt, man, because I think you could say with certainty this fact pattern tells you he's not telling you something. He's not telling you something. This is not right. All of this, that what David Icke says right there, he's right. It's something's not right. It doesn't track. It doesn't make sense.
I mean, I take all Americans with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
I mean, how could you not take an American with a grain of salt? How else do you take it?
Look, the Gabbard thing, the Vance thing, the Nicaragua thing. I'm sorry, man. You could take any one of those points and say, well, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. You put it all together, that guy's a cutout, man. That guy's a cutout. Now, the only question at that point is, are some of these views his independent views, and he has a certain amount of latitude to express them? You know, he's a legacy hire. I don't know, man. But there's absolutely no way you get that fact pattern and get to Tucker Carlson is what he says he is. No way. That much I can say.
I mean, very few people are who they say they are, you know? So, you know, who knows?
Yeah, you're fucking, yeah. There's where Keaton rips off the mask. You see he's actually a reptile. He's one of the reptile people. That would be a great ending to the Dude Dissonant show.
Exactly.
They would never see it again. It would be like an Art Bell legend.
Yeah.
Who is what they say they are.
I mean, yeah, who at that level is who they say they are. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's all artifice past a certain point.
Yeah,
it has to be. It has to be.
But okay, but there are extremes. And hanging out with the Contras, you know, it's a fair extreme.
Well, yeah, I mean, his dad was CIA. He says his dad was CIA.
Right.
You know,
right?
Yeah,
and when you look at what his father was, it's not hard to get to. He is a 21st century iteration of a guy doing that.
Perhaps, yeah, perhaps. JK Vam, $4.99. Couldn't help but contrast the humble, good-humored replies of the Vietnamese tour guide with the prideful, death-adoring boast of Merkin Hogswath.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Soon Heaven, Dr. Shiva for Senate, Massachusetts. Get involved. Thank you, Soon Heaven. Professor Brown, no. Make Lindsay wear a make asses gape a gas tank. Jesus Christ. EO Shush. It's good. This could be malice and not stupidity to divide the world in hemispheres. East Asia makes deals with China for oil from Iran or starve. Russia makes deals Europe or starve. GRCC becomes greater Israel. Yeah, I mean, I think the consequences are going to be too far out of the scope of what they're anticipating for that to explain it. I mean, not to say there's no malice involved. There is malice, but I think there is an extraordinary level of stupidity involved as well. Gator P, thanks for the $20. Gator P, what are you donating to us? We told you not to donate to us.
Yeah,
YouTube
dude,
algorithm sucks. Tried to send 3 super stickers. No, please don't send super stickers. We'll give you I'll read this. And all were declined and dismissed. Guess I'll use Rumble only. DRA back is YouTube lags compared to YouTube, and I can't cast to TV like YouTube. Yeah, I don't know if Rumble broadcasts to YouTube, but please don't send us any more money. I hooked you up with the membership. And so please just don't send us anymore. We don't want it. You keep that and take care of yourself, please. Matt from Wisconsin, Keaton, you might like the anonymous UK band Sleep Token, unique blend of metal, R&B, trap, gospel, and jazz, buttery smooth vocals with top-notch drumming. Thank you. I'll check that out. You know what I heard that I really liked? I'm going to review it soon. The new album by Flea, who's the bassist for the Red Hot Chili Peppers. He put out a jazz album where he plays bass and trumpet. It's really good. Really good. He does some cool covers and standards, but also some original stuff. I thought it was a really, really good listen. Thanks for the $10. Amadeus. In the long run, this will spurn diversification of energy. Thorium, solar panels, hemp, graphene, bamboo, hydroponics, 3D printing, and eventually fusion. Thank you, Amadeus. Buster Peak. Where did all the Trump signs go? That's right. Where did all the Trump signs go? Satanica. Russ, I would pay good money to watch Keaton play video games. Tried to reorganize the streams. Yeah. Exactly. Do you want to take some?
I think it would really annoy him.
Yeah, I was never
I think
great.
like temperamentally, you just wouldn't. You'd get annoyed with the whole like quest and move a thing to a thing to get a thing.
I never liked those kinds of
get
games.
on
I
your
liked
nerves.
I liked the linear games. Like apparently The Legend of Zelda was like a great game, a super acclaimed game for Nintendo 64. And as a kid, I found it very irritating because I would have to, you have to go find things. Oh, find the sword and bring it to this guy. Find things. Well, I hate looking for things in real life. I lose my keys in real life. I have a nervous breakdown trying to find my keys. I got to play a video game where I have to find this under a bush.
Sometimes you literally have to find keys.
Yeah, find a key under a bush and bring it to the troll in the hut. Like, what? What is this? A chore now I have to do? This is not a game. A game is, you play your Super Mario, you jump on the potato guy and get to the finish line. That's a game. The other stuff is no. The other stuff is just very annoying.
Yeah, I was into the Civilization games, but I knew this was going to happen. once like the whole woke thing hit, I knew it was going to fuck up civilization because it's such an obvious target, because the whole game was based on sociological theory of different social precepts and the outcomes they lead to. That you can't do that in a world where people are hypersensitive, right? Like you can't have fascism have certain good elements to it, right? You can't have theocracy has some advantages, like you can't. And then of course you have to add in, Sacagawea is the leader of a nation that could potentially take over the world and win the civilization game. So eventually, like the world leader chart just became like something out of the 1619 Project. Like, it just became absolutely fucking absurd. Like 50 leaders from like, the Scythians might have taken over the world, and you know why? Because their most famous leader was a woman. That's why we're going to pull the Scythians out of history as a potential winner. Just destroyed the whole game. So, Mike, the Russian bot. Russ comes back. The channel is blown up 5 times, but 90% of the subscribers are here for the puns and dad jokes. Happy travels, Russ. Yeah, well, I'll take care of those people fast enough. Spruce Wayne, the Saudis and the UAE will control the Levant. It will be the first territory to be openly traded as an asset on the open market, followed by Ukraine. Soon the Western world. Can you see the rest?
Oh, soon the Western world. Which one is that? Spruce Wayne? I'll see if I can find it. Is that from YouTube? I think that's from YouTube, right? Sorry. Soon the Western world will be managed like asset portfolios openly. Yeah, I'm going to have to reframe this.
EO Shush and the Americas become Trump America. The plan for South America is called Operation Total Extermination, no joke, and becomes the Canada 51st state. Greenland rolls over. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't think so. They were doing military operations in case the U.S. invaded over there. $1 Million Trooper JD Vance may have stooped a couch cushion soaked in Mountain Dew, but Keaton made it hot. Look, you have an admirer there.
Yeah.
Angry Gen Xer. Quote, if I don't know what I'm doing, my enemy doesn't know what I'm doing. Don Sue. Can we get any leaders who aren't a podcast, reality TV crook, or designed an Ivy League tech bill? Not in this moment in history, my friend. Not in the United States. Everywhere else in the world, they don't have leaders that are a grotesque joke, but not in America. Even like, it's not that other countries don't have bad leaders, but not like that. EF Husso, JD Vance, fucking couch cushions is for a newbie neophyte. He needs to harden himself to fuck the Wailing Wall. Well, that's why he was there, man. That's part of his training.
You should write.
Initiation.
You should join the Gavin Newsom campaign and write negative ads against Vance. JD Vance, wall fucker.
Well, I mean, Gavin's a wall fucker too, right? I mean, he went there. They must have made him fuck the wall.
I'm Gavin Newsom, and I fuck women, not walls. I may have fucked my best friend's wife, or not my best friend, my campaign manager's wife.
Yeah,
but I never fucked the wall.
Noah Goop, JD Vance vid is from Blunts for Jesus on Instagram. Great account, has many great videos. Yeah, I played it through to the credit, didn't I? The credit comes up at the end there. Dendrobates 3808 super chatted about the death penalty bill back in November after first vote. Strangely, no one was talking about it then, and now sadly it's now passed. At this point, they're just, you got that?
Or they're just where is it? Why is my back end here why is it so frozen? Why is the YouTube thing? It's something about the chambers, something about to the extent of now they just need the chambers, meaning it's basically a Holocaust bill.
Right.
Yeah, now they're just missing the chambers. Okay, there you go. There we go.
Brad Gilbert, rule, if they make any excuses, they're an op. I mean, You're not wrong, man. You're not wrong. Rumber, Tucker, and Kent have yet to criticize Trump. Fed as fuck. Yeah, absolutely, man. Like, if you really believe this. Noah Goop, JD Vance vid is from. All right, we got that one twice.
Oh, okay.
We'll do one more. Mark Gdansky, if Netanyahu recommended that Trump send Vance to negotiate, I would not go if I were JD. His casket will be draped with a false flag. Nah, they're not getting rid of that boy. They're not getting rid of that boy. Teal wants that boy. All right.
All right, let's move on along here, folks. Oh, by the way, if you want access to the full stream today, patreon.com/do dissidents. We're going to do an additional segment and take calls. So the last segment of the show will be exclusively for members. We got a members only room right now. So if you sign up, you will find access to that post. To the most recent post in the queue is the members only post. We got 25 of you guys hanging out in the members only room right now. So that's cool to see. All right, let's move right on along. Okay, folks, so we're going to go back to late last year. This was from December of 2025. Remember this? Far-right MK sport noose-shaped pins at hearing on controversial death penalty bill in Israel. So there's Itamar Ben-Gvir. The arrow is mine, of course, but just bringing your attention to that lapel pins. Remember, they had the yellow ribbon for solidarity with the hostages. Well, these guys thought it would be really cute to create a noose as a lapel pin and wear that in support of this death penalty bill, which just passed the Knesset. But let's read a little more about it. This is reporting from late last year. Lawmakers.
How much for 38 lapel pins like a noose?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
So much. Come on. That's too much. That's too much.
Lawmakers from the far-right Atzma Yehudit party wore noose-shaped lapel pins on Monday during a Monday committee meeting on a controversial bill they are pushing to legislate the death penalty for terror convicts, drawing condemnation from opposition figures. The golden-colored pins were reminiscent of the yellow ribbons worn by most Israeli politicians and officials outside the far right to show solidarity with hostages taken by Hamas on October 7th. The nooses were meant to symbolize the lawmakers', quote, commitment to the demand for the death penalty for terrorists and send, quote, a clear message that terrorists are deserving of death, National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir's office said in a statement. Ben-Gvir heads the Atzma Yehudit, which is attempting to pass a bill allowing, now I highlighted this here because this is, tricky wording from the Times of Israel, allowing those convicted in deadly terror attacks to be put to death. Currently, capital punishment is reserved for extremely rare cases and has only been used a single time in the country's history, the 1962 hanging of Nazi officer Adolf Eichmann, one of the architects of the Holocaust. So I want to bring your attention to the word those convicted in deadly terror attacks, because what they're omitting from that language is the fact that by those, they don't just mean anyone convicted in a deadly terror attack. What they mean is any Palestinian convicted in a deadly terror attack. So here we are, cut to yesterday when this bill passes. Israel passes death penalty law for Palestinians convicted of lethal attacks. The Guardian, Palestinians convicted of lethal attacks. The BBC, Palestinians convicted of deadly attacks face death penalty under new Israeli law. The law does not apply to everybody. It applies to Palestinians exclusively. Mondo Weiss breaks this down. Israel's Knesset has passed a law to execute Palestinian detainees. Death by hanging, mandatory sentencing, no pardon, 90 days to carry out. It applies through military courts with a 96% conviction rate. So it's not like you get a real trial. You go to a military judge. It does not apply to Israelis. The bill was devised by Itamar Ben-Gvir, who wore noose-shaped lapel pins in the run-up to the vote. Ben-Gvir was convicted in 2007 of racist incitement against Arabs and support for the Koch group, that a designated what? Terrorist organization by who? Both Israel and the United States. So you could argue Ben-Gvir is a terrorist. But this law only applies to Palestinians who are considered terrorists by the Israeli state. In support of a terrorist organization as designated by both Israel and the United States, there are mainstream American politicians who are Zionists who call Ben-Gvir a terrorist. More than 100 Palestinian detainees have already died in Israeli custody since October 2023. Dozens are still disappeared. Over 9,300 Palestinians sit in Israeli detention right now, including 350 children. Hundreds could face execution under this law. Israel abolished the death penalty for ordinary crimes in 1954. Today, they voted to bring it back exclusively, once again, for Palestinians. And here they are. Here is the proud moments of the bill passing. With some English subtitles, I'll read along here. Let me just nick the volume down a little bit. There we go. All right, here we go.
Death penalty law, 62 in favor, 48 opposed, abstentions 1. I declare that the death penalty for terrorists, Bill 2026, has passed its second and third readings, and the law will enter the statute book of the State of Israel. We have lived to see this day. Long live the people of Israel.
Okay, so just so everybody understands what this is, I'm sure everybody does, but you're talking about military courts, so you're really not talking about any kind of due process whatsoever. 96% conviction rate. You're talking about mandatory sentencing, and you're talking about a 90-day maximum window from conviction to execution. So this is beyond apartheid. I mean, it's apartheid in the sense that it applies to one racial group, but this is really Nazi shit. I mean, they're turning these detention centers into Nazi.
It's a race.
It's
a genocidal race law.
Yes, it's a genocidal race law. Exactly. And here they are popping champagne in celebration of having passed this genocidal race law.
השר, על מה כל החגיגה?
מוות למחבלים עבר היום, חוק מוות למחבלים, היסטוריה, היסטוריה. בעזרת השם בקרוב, אחד להוציא להורג, כל אלה שטבחו ורצחו ושרפו, לחיים, לחיי עם ישראל.
Now, the media wants you, who's absorbing this, to feel like you need to check yourself so as not to be an anti-Semite for thinking, wow, what a disgusting display, right? They want you to feel weird about getting too angry about this. Let me just ask you a hypothetical question here, and then I'll ask you a not-so-hypothetical question. If an African nation passed a bill like this, swift execution of a racial outgroup, that applies only to that racial outgroup, and you saw a bunch of black African guys pouring champagne and smoking cigars and toasting to the passage of that bill, would the media make you feel guilty about condemning that? Would they make you feel like, yeah, you know what, you don't want to speak too strongly against this because you might be an anti-black racist? Okay, that's the hypothetical. Now I'm going to ask you a non-hypothetical. Look at how the media talks about Arab regimes, quote unquote, in the Middle East. Look at what they said about Saddam Hussein, what a sadistic and brutal dictator he was. Look at how they talk about Iran, right? They don't couch that in, now wait a minute, now don't get too angry when you're thinking about Iran, lest you be Islamophobic or lest you be an anti-Arab racist. But they want you to check yourself. When videos like this come out, they want you to feel like, we have to consider, on the other hand, these people were Holocausted themselves. Well, now here they are toasting to another Holocaust, right? And so, as a couple of Jewish guys ourselves, we have license to point out that hypocrisy that are not afforded to some people. And so I feel a need to do that because there's nothing anti-Semitic or hateful about seeing this and wanting to vomit. It is a grotesque, inhuman, just disgusting display. And as a Jewish guy, I will also say it is a stain on Judaism that is not going to wash out for a very, very long time. These people really do make me feel ashamed to be Jewish, honestly. When I see shit like this, these guys in kippas pouring champagne and passing Holocaust race laws, it is shameful. It really is. It's horrible. Beyond description, really. we'll go on. We don't have much more in the way of exhibits. We'll talk about this. But here's Ofer Kasif, who is an Arab member of the Israeli Knesset, member of the Communist Party. You'll see the Che Guevara little statue there behind him. Here he is reacting to the passage of this bill.
That on the 50th anniversary of the Land Day, the day that symbolizes the looting, the theft, the confiscation of Palestinian land by the State of Israel, the Knesset, the Israeli parliament, has enacted a death penalty for Palestinian terrorists, as it were. Actually, that means something else. The law doesn't appeal to Jews because those who propose the law believe and say that explicitly that there's no such a thing like Jewish terrorism. And by definition, accordingly, there's no such a thing like Jewish terrorists. That means the Jews, a priori, are excluded from the appeal of this law. On the other hand, they say, again, explicitly, that all Palestinians are terrorists, if not at present, in potential. The chair of the Interior Committee at the Knesset said explicitly and literally a couple of days ago that there aren't any innocent people in Jenin, nor innocent children in Jenin. That means, again, that all Palestinians are terrorists. And if this law says that terrorists should be executed and all Palestinians are regarded by them as terrorists, that means, in other words, logically speaking, that all Palestinians should be executed. We have to say something very clear. That's not a death penalty law. That's a genocide law. All those who supported, let alone proposed this bill, should be tried by The Hague.
Yep. Unfortunately, he is in the minority. He was one of the 48 no votes, but it was not enough. So here's Mustafa Barghouti. Dr. Mustafa Barghouti, Secretary General of the Palestinian National Initiative, warned of the seriousness of the Israeli Knesset's final approval today of a death penalty law targeting Palestinian political prisoners and activists during its session. Yeah, if you watch No Other Land, you'll see the IDF rolls up on a Palestinian village. They bulldoze the house. Anybody who resists that is essentially deemed a terrorist. Now, here in this first phase of this bill, they're restricting this to deadly terror attacks. Yeah. How quickly does that morph into execute whoever the hell they want? Right. It's pretty obvious. Once you cross the Rubicon of enacting race genocide laws, which is essentially what this is, they can essentially do this to anybody who they deem worthy of that treatment. Barghouti affirmed that proposing such an unjust and inhuman law reflects the depth of the fascist shift within the Israeli system amid the international community's failure to impose punitive measures against it. Amir says, I know the Nazi card is overused and almost never applies, but what the Israeli Knesset has overwhelmingly voted for today, a law to mass murder Palestinian detainees, prisoners who inconveniently cannot just be bombed in Gaza or shot in the streets, a law introduced by a genocidal minister with an international arrest warrant, is the most dystopian and evil shit perhaps any country has done since Nazi Germany. Yeah, Jerry Nadler called Itamar Ben-Gvir a terrorist. Jerry Nadler. Okay? Rathbone says, thank God AOC only sent defensive weapons to these demons. Yeah, good point. Remember Gavin Newsom, California Governor Gavin Newsom, on Israel? I revere the state of Israel. I'm proud to support the state of Israel. I deeply, deeply oppose Benjamin Netanyahu's leadership, the opposition to the two-state solution, blah, blah, blah. This was another thought I had that I tweeted. I said, take note, liberal Zionists. This, meaning this bill, is the consequence of insisting that a state has an inherent and inalienable right to exist, as opposed to a responsibility to conduct itself according to universally applied standards of international law. You can't insist that an apartheid state has a right to exist as an apartheid state and then gasp in horror when that state takes things to extremes that you, quote, didn't see coming. You have to nip apartheid in the bud. This is why. And this is a minor point of discussion compared to the overall horror of this bill. But this is where liberal Zionists are going to run into a big problem come these next couple of campaign cycles. How could you be on record saying you revere a state like this? You revere a state, but you oppose the leadership? Once you sign off on apartheid, apartheid could go anywhere as long as you accept an apartheid structure. Once you accept a framework that a certain outgroup can be trampled upon, then at that point, that is in itself licensed to take it as far as you possibly can. And you have this quote unquote fringe group within Israel who's now not so fringe anymore because they won the vote 62-48 to implement a Nazi concentration camp law. So that's why no. There is no right to, first of all, no state has a right to exist. That's a ridiculous framework to begin with. Apartheid states should not be recognized as legitimate states, period. And this is why. Because once you sign off on an apartheid dynamic, it's only a matter of time before it's taken to these extremes.
This is an inevitable outcome of the whole premise of Zionism and the Zionist state. How could it end any other way?
Right.
You have Animal Farm. Yes, Orwell was thinking about the Russian Revolution and its outcomes, but it can also be taken as an allegory of what happens when the oppressed become the oppressors. This was something that was a core theme of Frank Herbert's books as well. He constantly intoned the oppressed become the oppressors, because through oppression, the oppressed develop the skills you need to survive that oppression. And very often that makes them stronger than their oppressors. And eventually they wind up being dominant and recreating that oppression. That's in a lot of ways the arc of Animal Farm. And that's what happened here. Like when you see these pigs it's toasting champagne that they passed a genocide bill, I mean, the journey is complete, isn't it? From the Nazi camps to becoming the Nazis.
Of course.
And there's also, a lot of what Heinlein was writing about in Starship Troopers. That's Heinlein, right? Starship Troopers?
You're talking about the book?
Yeah. Is that Heinlein?
No, I don't think so.
No, it's not Heinlein. Who is that?
The audience will know.
The audience will know. But you have that element of the way that once you completely other a group to justify war fever, it can only end in genocide. Where does that go? Because eventually the premise leads to the conclusion that you have to exterminate these people. Like, what other conclusion could there be? If they're monstrous, they're evil, they're other, over time, you're going to come to the conclusion, well, we have to exterminate them. Dude, this is not new. I remember when I was a child in summer camp, I had an Israeli camp counselor, and he was telling me I should go to Israel because I'm Jewish. He says to me, they will love you because you are Jewish. The Arabs, they're not like us. They're like animals. They're like animals, the Arabs. But you go there, as a Jew, they will love you just because you are Jewish. And hey, man, when you look at that kind of a formulation really appeals to weak personalities, people who are prone to join cults, right? You're going to be loved. You're going to be loved just because you have this identity group. And every fanatical Zionist I know, it makes sense. There are people who don't have any pride in themselves. There are people who don't have any self-respect. You don't have any self-respect when somebody tells you just by identifying as a member of a group, you're going to be elevated above other people. That appeals to weak people. Unfortunately, there are a lot of them.
Yep. Yes, indeed. So it's just horrible. It's just unthinkable. It's just so incredibly bleak. But yeah, majority support. So, next time you hear, Bernie Sanders, Netanyahu, this, that. No, easy. It passed by a landslide. It passed by a landslide. That is the function of democratic will.
No, I'm right.
Within Israel. Yeah.
I'm right. It's Heinlein.
Oh, it is?
That was Heinlein.
Okay, I didn't know.
And hey, I'm going to up that guy's base Che Guevara with a Ho Chi Minh.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, raise you a Ho Chi Minh. There you go.
I'll raise you a Ho Chi Minh.
All right.
I've had that on the desk the whole
Oh,
time.
just waiting for a time to pull it out.
Yeah,
Huh?
yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing the show with it as like inspiration. I just haven't shown it.
Yeah, right.
I've had this since Hanoi. I bought this in Hanoi.
Wow. All right, folks. Take a little game break here. Here's a little inside scoop, of course, that many creators are talking about behind the scenes. It's one of the reasons we use Rumble, because they made a way to super chat us creators so we get paid immediately and without any fees. While YouTube and Twitch can take up to 50% fees when you tip creators, this method takes none. That's right. The platform takes 0 fees. We keep nearly 100% of what you send us. And it's super easy. You could super chat us with Bitcoin, Tether USD, or even Tether Gold stable coins. The tip shows up directly on the Rumble chat, just like a regular Rumble rant, which of course we read throughout the show. All you have to do is download the Rumble wallet on the App Store and send the tips to your favorite creators, i.e. us, of course. You can go to wallet.rumble.com, or you can download the app directly from the app stores. It's super easy to do. You download the app, you send the chat just like you would any other Rumble rant, and before it sends, it asks, do you want to send USD or through your Rumble wallet? You hit the button, and it's done. Nothing to it. Super simple, and it helps us out. It helps Rumble out tremendously. It's an amazing way to get rid of the middleman and help the creator economy. So, of course, another shout out to Rumble for making this disruptive technology. That's wallet.rumble.com. QR codes on the screen, or download Rumble Wallet from the App Store. Okay. Let's move right on along. You want to take some super chats and some Rumble rants, and I will get the scroll set up.
Sure.
All right.
Oh,
by the way, that Rubio clip, that's loaded in there. Was that the sound only now? I just wanted to remind you.
Oh, shit.
You didn't do that.
I did not. Okay. That's going to be tough if I'm up next and I'm reading this. All right. Well,
right here. Well, I'll read them. Do you want to do it? I can read it. Hold on.
Yeah, I can do that. I can do this. Fast.
Yeah, do that one. Okay, let me go over here. All right. So, hey, folks, if you like what we're doing and you'll want to help us do more of it, best way to do that is to become a member. You can become a member at dudissidents.com/Patreon/Substack or /locals. Today's a good day to become a member because after this final segment on the YouTube show, we are moving over to our private stream to do our final segment of the day, and then we will have a little matinee Q&A for our paid members. So dudissidents.com/Patreon/Substack or /locals. If you sign up, the post with the invite to join the members only portion of the stream is the most recent post. Obviously, it just went out this morning. El Jib D. Lenore, thanks for the €20. I just wanted to give 10, but since Keaton is an anarcho-haglist, it became €20. An ANCAP number justice for Hans Weber. That's right. Someone called me a mutualist, too. Yeah, that makes sense. I read up on that. I had not heard that. But yeah, mutualist, that makes sense. That makes sense. A market socialist, right? That's kind of what they called me. I think I summed it up pretty perfectly. I think I stumbled upon a nugget of brilliance in the last stream when I said, no matter what economic system you live under, you can still get nice coffee if you suck enough dick for it. I mean, that was pretty good. I think that really says it all. Sometimes you just stumble upon something that's just right, and I think that's just right.
Stumble on shit, man. You stole that from Das Capital.
Yeah, you can still buy you can still get a nice coffee if you suck enough dick for it. It's Karl Marx. Maybe I'll have Chris Hedges on the show. I'll drop that line on him. As Karl Marx said.
Yeah, he'll love that.
Yeah. Tucker is an imperialist. His criticism against fighting on behalf of Israel is because he believes it weakens the empire not for being against war. Well, yeah, like I said, yeah, no, he is. I mean, he is an entrenched American, for sure, absolutely. Bring ya Tigrinya. All right, you got it. You good?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Jerusalem Post sponsoring first unicorn rodeo in Dallas in 4 weeks. Tal Shemeli and other ex-IDF angels will gather for Zio Kill Tech Bacchanal. Stoop Sign says, I wonder if Way needs to be publicly distance himself from Amfest. Noah Goop, did you guys see Ritter claim with 100% certainty that the Iran war and Ukraine war are both about to end because U.S. and Russian bankers had a meeting? Grifting scumbag. I hope he's right. I hope he's right. How immediately? Did he say?
If RFK hadn't felt Putin, we all would have died in a nuclear war. Try the fish.
Try to fish. Russ, book is The Yankee and Cowboy War by Carl Oglesby. He was in the anti-war movement in the 60s and a JFK theorist like Mark Lane. All right. Well, thank you for that. Inconsistency, Tucker's rhetoric. He says it's all about equality for all citizens. What he didn't include economic equality, and I did notice he sure did bash Somali Minnesota daycare. Yeah, no, they're all on that. They're all on that.
Get in on that?
I'm sure. I mean, I didn't watch it, but that doesn't surprise me. In Africa, the saying is it takes a child to raise a village. Ooh, raise. I get what you did there. That was approaching dad joke there. That was a dark dad joke. Vienticus Prime, they're all sheep herders. Professor Browno, well, it sort of eggs on Glenn's face if you're right. Nina Kant, if Tucker was a threat, they would separate him in 5 seconds. Vienticus Prime, very few people who are who they say they are, and it's a rare person who is taken for who he truly is. There you go. There you go, Vienticus. Okay, so what did I do? I posted some of these by accident. I posted double of these. Here we go. Nong, nong, nong. Thanks for the $10. No matter what Tucker says to me, his affect always makes him the most stilted and disingenuous Svengali ever to gaslight a captive audience. All gatekeepers. Saucer says, I think Tucker is a Nazi grifter who just says shit. Nong, nong, nong. Joe Kent is another obvious op. Fake hair for starters. You think his hair is fake? Keaton is kind of overanalyzing.
Young to need fake hair.
He seems kind of young.
It does happen sometimes.
Keaton kind of overanalyzing, trying to get into Tucker's head and gaming out why he is saying one thing versus another. Is just adding another layer where none of us have any information. Yeah, I mean that you could but I would say the question of I mean, look, ultimately what matters is what he says and if he's actually lobbying to end the war, right? I mean. Same thing with Joe Kent. Quiet Cowboy, I'm going to miss you during your China leg, Russell, but looking forward to your videos. Been China pilled for a while and learning Mandarin. Oh, look, you said safe travels in Mandarin. Look at that. You got
well, on Russ on the Road, I am going to be streaming videos from China. And from what I understand, because they're living in the 23rd century, there's freaking Wi-Fi everywhere. So, like, I have seen a lot of content creators stream from the street in China. So I'm hoping to be able to do that.
Palaganda, Israel just announced they will destroy all homes near the Lebanon border. Wow. Boycott Israel. Make your own hummus at home. Be careful when you buy tahini. A lot of it comes from Israeli suppliers, but there are a lot of options from Lebanon. Thanks. I thought I liked tahini. I mean, I don't dislike tahini, but it's nothing great. It's nothing worth buying. I'm not a big tahini guy.
For hummus, I use Cedar is the alternate brand usually in my supermarket.
Okay. Vienticus Prime. Keaton seems the heroes of Might and Magic, the third person. Interesting. Noah Goop. Tucker spent 2 months in a tent with RFK and Roger Ailes. Kenman says, I take deep offense at your characterization of the Shah's son as an idiot. I would say he's a late bloomer. Thank you for that. All righty, folks. So once again, if you'd like to sign up to become a member, patreon.com/DudeDissidents. But we got one more segment on the main show here. So let's get at it, shall we?
Yes. All right. So you might remember a few months ago, Trump was very upset when Spain informed him he could not use their military bases for strikes on Iran.
Did Spain give in after you told them that you would commerce ties with them? Are they cooperating with the United States? Spain.
No, they're not. I think they're not cooperating at all. Spain, I think they've been very bad. Very bad. Not good at all. We may cut off trade with Spain.
Not good at all.
You guys all trade with them?
I don't know what Spain's doing. They've been very bad to NATO. They get protected. They don't want to pay their fair share. And they've been that way for many years. Let me give you the good news. Let me give you the good news. The people of Spain are fantastic. The leadership, like you. The leadership, not so good.
The weather there is excellent. The rain in Spain falls mainly on the plain, but the rest is very dry. Very dry. That's what my dad told me about Spain. That's about all I know. Yeah, what he's referencing there is even before this, Trump has been demanding that the NATO countries pony up 5% to NATO, and they've not only been doing 2 or 2.5%. They're not even playing the we're working our way up to it game. They've basically been like, yeah, that's good enough for us. We don't that satisfies our defensive needs. We don't need to spend 5% of our GDP. We're not doing that. So this is the latest. Key U.S. ally blocks airspace to military flights over escalating standoff with Trump. I use Fox News because they're like barely concealed hysteria is kind of funny, buried in the text, in the subtext. A growing standoff between President Donald Trump and a key NATO ally escalated Monday after Spain blocked U.S. military aircraft involved in the Iran conflict from using its airspace, marking the latest rupture between Washington and Madrid over defense policy in the war in the Middle East. Spanish Defense Minister Margarita Robles confirmed the move, saying Spain has denied both airspace access and the use of joint U.S.-Spanish bases for any operations tied to the Iran conflict. This is a country that's not only based, it's full of based women, man. Like, they've got 2 European members of parliament that are just like, yeah, the U.S. and Israel's committing a genocide and we need to get out of NATO because they're going to drag us into being complicit.
Yeah, it's an extremely impressive country. They have 2, not just 1, but 2 smart women. Think about that.
3. 3. Because you have this is the defense minister.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah. All right, so here she is commenting on this. From the very beginning, it was made absolutely clear to US forces. Let me bring that down some.
Ejército americano y a las fuerzas americanas y por lo tanto ni se
That the use
autorizan
of
las
military
bases
bases
ni
is not
tampoco
authorized, nor of course is the
la
use of
utilización
Spanish
del espacio
airspace
aéreo español para
for any
actuaciones que
operations
tengan que ver
relating to
con
war
la
in
guerra
Iran.
en Irán, para ir a una guerra
The
contra la que
airspace is
estamos
not to be
totalmente
used to
en
go to
contra,
war against something we are totally
en la que
opposed
no
to,
creemos que nos parece
something we do not
profundamente
believe in, which we consider to be profoundly illegal and
ilegal
profoundly
y
unjust.
profundamente injusta.
Looking better and better for that expat life, man. One place they're not going to kick down my door in the middle of doing the show. Spain already had refused to allow U.S. forces to use the strategically critical Rota and Morón bases in southern Spain, installations long viewed as key hubs for American military operations into Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. The expansion of that restriction to Spanish airspace effectively cuts off another logistical pathway for U.S. operations and signals that Madrid is willing to directly limit U.S. military movement despite its NATO membership. The dispute has increasingly become a direct clash between Trump and Spain's left-wing government under Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez, which has taken one of the most outspoken positions in Europe against the U.S. and Israeli military actions. Not one of, the most, guys. Sanchez has described the Iran war as illegal, reckless, and unjust, and his government has framed its refusal to cooperate
as a matter of international law and national sovereignty. I gotta say, at this point, CBS, because I looked at the CBS article too, although we kind of have an informal boycott against using them unless absolutely necessary. And at this point, Fox News prose is more reasonable and balanced than CBS is. This decision is part of the decision already made by the Spanish government not to participate in or contribute to a war which was initiated unilaterally and against international law, Economy Minister Carlos Cuerpo said in a radio interview when asked whether the move could further strain ties with the United States. A White House official downplayed Spain's latest move. Okay, so I read 4 different articles about this before settling on the Fox one. They gave this same exact quote to all of them. The United States military is meeting or surpassing all of its goals under Operation Epic Fury and does not need help from Spain or anyone else. That exact quote they gave to every single outlet. The official told Fox News Digital and everyone else, guys. The U.S. maintains a significant military presence in Spain under long-standing bilateral agreements, including Naval Station Rota and Morón Air Base, which serve as key hubs for American forces moving between the United States, Europe, and the Middle East. Naval Station Rota, in particular, supports U.S. Navy operations in the Mediterranean and hosts warships tied to the U.S. Sixth Fleet, some of which have been operating in the broader Iran conflict. Spain's earlier decision to bar the use of those bases for Iran-related operations forced U.S. aircraft, including refueling tankers, to relocate to other European bases, such as Germany and France. Listen, Spain is the first, not the last. And eventually, what you are going to get is these, and I think Spain will probably be first, countries are going to start asking the United States to leave those bases. They're going to start asking those bases to close down. So here are the Iranian students that were going to replace the regime, I guess, thanking Spain outside the Spanish embassy for its position.
Viva España! Viva España! Viva España! Viva España! Viva España! Viva España! Viva España!
No, wow. They're just dying to overthrow that government right there. Here's a little Marco here responding to this latest blow to Spano-American relations.
Betray the U.S. at this crucial moment.
I think it was very disappointing. You have this, and again, look, the president and our country will have to re-examine all of this after this operation is over. But one of the reasons why NATO is beneficial to the United States is it gives us basing rights for contingencies. It allows us to station troops and aircraft and weapons and in parts of the world that we would normally have bases. And that includes in much of Europe. And to see that in a time of need, the United States has identified a grave risk to our national security and our national interests, and we needed to conduct this operation. And we have countries like Spain, a NATO member, that we are pledged to defend, denying us the use of their airspace and bragging about it.
Yeah, and as Keaton pointed out earlier, this is a war of choice, and it is a war that is a violation of international law. That is not covered by NATO. NATO having a defensive pact does not obligate the people in that pact to get involved in any war you decide to go start. That is, if Iran actually attacked the United States and Spain refused to allow you to use their bases to retaliate, that would fall under the NATO pact. This certainly does not. So what? Any war crime you decide to go commit, everyone in NATO has to back you up. Any crazy fancy that strikes the head of your mad king and the people who rule him and his decisions, they're obligated to get involved in.
us the use of their bases. And there are other countries that have done that as well. And so you ask yourself, well, what is in it for the United States? And I've been a big supporter
What's in
of
it for
NATO.
them?
And one of the reasons why I've been a supporter of NATO is because I believe that these basing rights give us leverage and give us flexibility and operational capability all over the world. But if NATO is just about us defending Europe if they're attacked, but them denying us basing rights when we need them, that's not a very good arrangement. That's a hard one to stay engaged in and say this is good for the United States. So all of them's going to have to be re-examined. All of it's going to have to be re-examined.
They're going to re-examine it. I believe they are going to re-examine it because the level of destruction that we are about to bring on the world, it's accelerating week by week. You can see the condition getting more and more dire. And we haven't really had time to get into this. But you can't just restart oil wells that have been stopped. That's a months-long process. If you don't do it right, you can destroy the well. So even if this stopped tomorrow, you're talking about mass suffering around the world. What do you think? People aren't noticing that America having this kind of power is dangerous to everyone around the world? A lot of momentum is building towards eliminating American power. They're just trying to figure out how to do it because of all the treasuries people hold around the world. It's very difficult for them to defuse the bomb without the explosion blowing up on themselves. That's BRICS figuring out alternative payment systems. That's what you see around the world, where they're gradually lessening their holdings in treasuries, but they're not stopping their purchase of treasuries altogether because they can't do that without blowing up their own economy. They are trying to gradually suffocate the United States, but without destroying themselves. And it's a very tricky process. But that's what they're doing. That is what's going on around the world. You look at Spain, they had the courage to go first. They're not going to be last. And the next obvious thing is going to be, we don't want your bases here anymore. That's coming. What's in it for NATO? What is in it for NATO? Who's going to attack them? Who's going to attack them? Like set the propaganda aside. Putin wants to occupy Europe. Like, does any reasonable person actually believe that? Yeah, Putin wants his tanks rolling into France. So who's going to invade you? China? China has a almost culturally ingrained tendency towards cultural isolation. The world didn't allow them to be culturally isolated. Their diplomatic position today is a compromise between kind of wanting to be on your own but having to engage in the world. This is why you've never had mass colonization of Chinese. It's just not really their thing. So who's and even if it were, what, China's going to come invade Europe? Like, does that? So what the fuck do they need NATO for? Who's invading Europe? What threat is Europe under that it actually needs NATO? So here is Pedro Sanchez, that rarest of things in this age. I'm afraid to say this because then he's gonna, something's gonna happen. Another shoe's gonna drop. He's gonna pop up in the Epstein files or something. But at least so far, man, this guy's based. It's a very, very rare based world leader.
Well, as I said, there's a moral dimension of this war, or these wars, I would say, because I think all of them are interconnected. The Gaza war, of course, what is happening in Lebanon, and of course in Iran. I do believe that there's a clear strategy from Prime Minister Netanyahu and his government to create a new geopolitical reality in the Middle East. I don't know if the U.S.
He didn't say Greater Israel Project, but he basically said Greater Israel Project.
Administration is aligned with that vision or not. We are very concerned about the situation in the Middle East because at the end of the day, we suffer the instability. We suffer, of course, the insecurity and the economic impact of all these wars. And that is why we are so engaged and we're so vocal, stating that we need to return to diplomacy. In my view, this war in Iran is a big mistake for the world and therefore for the U.S.
Mm-hmm. So wouldn't it be amazing to have like a reasonable leader like that? Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah.
Arnaud Bertrand. I have to admit, as a Frenchman, it makes me a tiny bit angry to see Spain be the principal Gaullists of our age. I love Sanchez, pretty much the only EU statesman worth his salt today, but he also really highlights how depressingly bad the others are in comparison. My country in particular. Hopefully a lesson will be learned. This is very Gaullist too. He was never big on lecturing others, but all about setting an example. But hey, you know, Sanchez is not the only one saying that we shouldn't be allowing the U.S. to launch these strikes. You know who else is saying it? Now, this is funny. Most of the posts that included this avoided saying what party he's affiliated with. There's German leaders are turning on it too, but this is Germany's AfD co-chair saying, hey, maybe we shouldn't be involved in this. We cannot clear the Strait of Hormuz with the Navy. We must not send our soldiers there to be used as target practice either. And that is why it is right we do not take part in this, dear friends. However, ships carrying Spanish goods are permitted to pass through the strait. Why are the Spanish allowed through there? Because Spain is closing its bases to the Iran war. And that is exactly the right approach. Spain is simply not getting involved in the war. That is why we are beginning as it also states in our party platform, we are beginning to put this into action as well with the withdrawal of U.S. Troops from Germany, my friends. Now, the reason I wanted to show that is this is something that we have been talking about since the early days of the show. You know, the time of the neoliberal has passed. The time when you can get public support for neoliberalism has passed. People are going to choose one or the other. They're going to choose the Sanchez or they're going to choose the AfD, this far-right party where, you know, people try to say, oh, that's not what they are, man. Yeah, you know, one of their leaders sat down with Elon and they, you know, both agreed that the Nazis were communists. Okay, so don't tell me that's not what they are. That having been said, yeah, if you're going to have a people first kind of nationalist platform, some of that is going to overlap with what the left believes. There is going to be some overlap there for different reasons with a different point of view. But yeah, you know, if you're going to say Deutschland first, yeah, it's not Deutschland first to get involved in a Middle Eastern war at the behest of a foreign power. That can be a right-wing point of view that gets you to the same place as well. All right, now compare them to this douche who wants to have it both ways, Keir Starmer, classic neoliberal. He wants to go up there and talk like he's not getting involved in this war. He's not taking this stand on British bases. British bases are being used for strikes against Iran. He's trying to get around it by claiming these are defensive. There's no defensive moves in an offensive war that the country that you're assisting started.
Well, of course. By this logic, you can do anything you want to anybody ever.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's defensive.
Yeah.
Is uncertain. We're facing a war on two fronts. The Ukraine war now, 4 and a bit years in, and let's salute the bravery of Ukrainians over so many years, both on the front line and the civilians, as they fight for the values that matter to us. And now the other front, the other war, which is the Iran war, which I know is causing huge concern. People look at their screens and they're worried when they see explosions, infrastructure blown up, the rhetoric that goes with it, worried about whether this is going to escalate even further. And therefore it's really important that I reiterate where I stand and where this government stands. because this is not our war, and we are not going to be dragged into it.
Well, then why don't you take the position Spain has? Why don't you stop the United States from launching attacks from your bases? And again, the way he gets around that is he says we're only allowing it for defensive strikes. So listen, if you have any political instinct in your body, it's very clear what the outcome is of a contest between those three groups. We experienced it in America, right? They didn't allow the Bernie Sanders people to represent populism, so they went to Trump. If you don't allow a Sanchez, you're going to get the AFD. This shit, its days are not. Is this what people would pick over those other two? Of course not. Listen to them with the Ukraine war. Who supports that? Who supports that? Who really is behind this, other than the people they stacked that room with? So, well, Miss Lindsay had to weigh in. I would highly encourage President Trump to not let the Spanish government's decision to restrict the airspace to the U.S. military go unanswered. Spain clearly doesn't understand the importance of degrading the largest state sponsor of terrorism that has wreaked havoc on the world since 1979. I will gladly work with anyone to impose sanctions on Spain for this outrage. I would again recommend to President Trump that we close U.S. air bases in Spain and relocate to a country that allows these assets to be used to protect America and the world. The sooner this is done, the better. You know what? If you did that, the people in Spain would be out in the streets cheering to see you go. They would be very happy to see you go. In fact, the better way to pitch this might be, sir, before Spain humiliates us by telling us to close our bases, we should say, you can't fire me because I quit, and close them ourselves. That's what you should, that really should be the angle on that. It's amazing how, of course, Miss Lindsay doesn't get it, but Rubio doesn't get it either. Like, they're talking about Americans leaving as if that's a threat. Pretty soon, you're not going to have a choice. They don't get how much they have broken the world or broken the old order with a lot of the moves that they've made. You've done nothing but spit in the faces of these people, and then you start a war that's going to destroy the world economy, and then you basically call them a bunch of pussies for not getting involved in it, for not wanting to get their people killed in it. You've just, again, this was a process that was happening anyway with BRICS and de-dollarization. You've accelerated the collapse of the empire probably by decades by doing this.
Yeah, without a doubt. And Spain is like the France of 2026. Remember when France didn't back us in the Iraq War? We had that meltdown. Yep. Remember freedom fries? Remember
freedom fries? Oh, very well.
Very well. Speak in German if it wasn't for us. Spain is that. Spain is that. They're playing that role now, only in a more high stakes situation, and obviously 23 years on from Iraq, where people's patience is running even more thin. And so, yeah, of course, they would take the opportunity to be rid of us. Like you said, there's no interest. What is in it for these countries to be in military alliance with us if the price of that means they have to co-sign every offensive war that we start? What country would take that
a dangerously violent and unstable country starts?
Yes. That's 5,000 miles further from the combat than you are,
right?
As a country, right? Yeah, nothing in it for them. All right, folks, we're going to head over to Rumble soon. Just want to tell you about a follow-up to an album called Dogmatics. This is by a bard and a guitar. It's called Love Songs to My Favorite Politicians, and it's a musical comedy album inspired by the 2024 election. It features Red versus Blue, which is a pop-punk jam that explores the two parties, the people who look to them for answers, the commentators who cheer them, and the ones caught in the middle. Yeshua is a pop song that argues that Jesus was possibly a commie libertarian, One Asshole, Two Cheeks is a romantic ballad, a love letter to Trump and Obama. Naturally Born Killers is a jazzy track about baby killers. Well, not babies that kill, but killers of babies. Then there's Econ 101, which was a hip-hop verse about economics. Sorry, my baby just tried to break into the office. There's Econ 101, a hip-hop verse about economics and more. Find love songs to my favorite politicians by a bard and a guitar on most streaming services or on YouTube if you're interested. So dudissidents.com/bard takes you to a link where you can find them on Apple Music and or Spotify or YouTube, wherever you get your music. That's dudissidents.com/bard. All right, folks, we're going to head to Rumble in just a couple minutes. If you would like to join us there, go to patreon.com/do-dissidents. We have a private Rumble stream going, so it's not the Rumble stream that's there, although if you are a Rumble Premium member, you will maintain access to the stream. So we got 56 in the members-only room right now, and we'll be heading over there in just a couple minutes. We'll take these super chats and Rumble rants before we do.
I can get those. Don't we have housekeeping?
Yeah, we have a little bit of housekeeping here. What do we got? We have, oh yeah, that's right. We're at 2201 on YouTube chat. And we're at 1156 in the like column. All righty.
Last time for a while, you're going to see this.
The Iron Maiden shirt, that's right.
Yeah. $1 Million Trooper, I believe there's enough compartmentalization that Tucker has to guess at who is an operative. But Vance, my normie Dem, still believes in Russiagate's sister, knew he is Thiel's puppet before I told her. Yeah, man. I mean, come on. And the Tulsi shit, I'm not buying either, but we can agree to disagree. Judy Denmark, Keaton, you remind me of the Anne Frank quote. Despite everything I believe, people are good at heart. You didn't want to badmouth Erica Kirk, and now you want to give Tucker the benefit of the doubt. Yeah. It's funny, you know, man. You have similar dynamics with people throughout your life. You know, me and my best friend were very much kind of had that dynamic. He had a much more abrasive demeanor, but I was always the harder one. I mean, I'm not Keaton. Keaton's nastier outwardly, but inwardly he's a pussycat. Inwardly he's a nice guy.
I mean, my attitude is I'm not friends with either of them. I don't care if Erica Kirk is an angel heart. I care if she killed her husband. But if she didn't kill her husband, like that's what I get. That's to me the question. And with Tucker, it's the same thing. You know what I mean? Like I'm not friends with any of these people. Beyond that, it doesn't matter that much.
Yeah, but you never really know people, man. You say you're not friends with her. I don't know that.
Yeah, right.
I'm not with you all the time. I don't have your phones tapped.
That's right.
Maybe you are friends with her. Noah Goop. I stand by my theory that Rumble and X herded all the dissidents into a neat pile, and when Dems come back, heads will roll. Maybe. Guess they better break. You know, if you had a son wearing dresses and you put them away, you better get them back out.
Right.
$1 Million Trooper. You'd think new shaped lapel pins would be worn by people opposing capital punishment, but we're talking about Israel. Yeah, some sick motherfuckers over there. Vianticus Prime seems a very final solution. It really does. It really does. Vianticus Prime just in. Iran says it will attack major U.S. tech companies across the Middle East. Well, that's not just in. They said that a couple of weeks ago, including Apple, Microsoft, Google, Meta, NVIDIA, Oracle, Tesla, HP, Intel, and IBM. Maybe they said it again. They hit that Amazon cloud center pretty early on. Vianticus Prime, Jews for apartheid.
Jesus. Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Good one.
Oh, George. Yes, Heinlein. I have it right here. Of course you do.
Good catch, oh, George.
Vianticus Prime, it makes no sense to seek power over another if you are already a strong person. What need do you have to hinder the path to what you want by having to depend on another person? Look, I say this not just about Judaism, about any kind of people who really are drawn to identifying themselves based on a group label that they affiliate with, those are weak people, man. There's something fundamentally weak inside you to need to lead with that. I don't mean you can't have that as part of the mix, but you know those people, man. Like they every other word out of their mouth is about the identity group they're a member of. There's something going on there, man. If you were happy with yourself, you wouldn't do that. Professor Brown note: DD needs to sell Buddha Rust mini bust. That's a merch idea. You know, I have a friend who could actually make that. Richard Namulala. Did you catch Racket News trashing Jimmy D Monday? Yeah, we saw that. If we're talking about the same episode.
No, it's a new one about Whitney Webb's interview. I did watch it. It's amazing.
Oh, it's another one.
Yeah, you know, it's amazing to start a show called Today's News and never cover the news. Like they never cover actual news. It's been like 4 episodes in a row
about World War III here.
Yeah. It's 4 episodes in a row about how everyone's wrong to care about Epstein. And then they did something with the UK government and Taibbi, whatever the story is. I don't know. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to get something wrong and have him email us about how irresponsible we are. But yeah, it's amazing. Like you know, and they act like, yeah, everybody's obsessed with this story. Well, not for the last couple of weeks, actually. People have been more obsessed with the Iran war. But yeah, you got a show called Today's News. They don't seem to keep very up to date on the news.
So how are the numbers now that you know, you're past the curiosity watch phase?
And that's the thing. I don't get it. Like this last episode had like 3,000 viewers, which in YouTube ads, that's about $11. Right. Assuming live stream ads pay a little better, you're talking about $17, $18. Like, what the hell is the point of doing that? I really don't get it. All right, you want me to take over?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Russ is 100% right. Carlson is CIA, as is Joe Kent and many others. This is very elegant orchestration to maintain legitimacy for Vance, who will do bidding. Sorry, I got cut off there. But yeah, no, I mean, look, I do think, like I said, they're invested. They're generally like invested in the success of the administration and the movement. Vance is a non-starter at this point. I hope that book is good, and I hope he gets a nice book deal moving forward, because he's going to be writing books for a living past 2028, not serving as president. I can tell you that. Burning the world. Israel supports Moroccan plans to invade Spain and the independence of Catalonia. The opposition party, Vox, is the main ally of Israel in the country. Interesting. Okay. Race car. Hey, I'm still researching the cheese whiz question. Give me a few more days. Man, to think we almost lost our ozone layer because of cheese in a can. Brad Gilbert, all part of the club of Rome's 10 Kingdoms plan. P. Walker, Russell, you're underestimating just how trapped European elites are to Washington. European elites cannot function without Uncle Sam. They panic if asked to be independent. Well, I mean, they're going to be panicking a lot more if missiles are heading their way, if they follow us into every one of our fucking...
Look, man, it's human instinct. The more America is clearly a threat to everybody's survival, the more the survival instinct is going to kick in, and people are going to want to disengage from the United States.
Exactly. Kenman, Tucker Carlson's anti-Israel Huckabee rhetoric tracks with his CIA connections. Lots of intel agents like Kiriakou hate the Mossad and Israel.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. Like there's not one wing of the powerful.
Maybe they shit in Tucker's toilet and didn't flush. Remember when Kiriakou told that story about the Israelis? They shit in the guy's house and didn't flush the toilet.
And Tucker seems like the kind of guy who'd be put out by that.
He would hold a grudge about that for sure.
Yeah.
He seems like the kind of guy that holds a grudge. They didn't even light a match on the way out. Did you not notice a jar of Febreze on the sink? You didn't think to maybe spray it once or twice?
A little
you just shit and
potpourri.
leave? Yeah. It's unbelievable. Never seen anything like it. Russell's Miss Lindsay voice is creamy, certainly appropriate for the traitor Blow-a-Dick Arnold. Good one. I like that. I like that. If you want a next level Civ-like time sink, book to Paradox Grand Strategy Games, non-woke, far more realistic, steep learning curve, but say goodbye to sleep. All right.
Yeah,
well,
that would be dangerous for me.
All right, everybody. Well, that is most of our show, but not all of it. If you want to join, patreon.com/do dissidents. Make your way over to the members only room, or if you're on Rumble Premium, the show will continue in just 5 minutes. We got an intermission coming up. 87 hanging out in the Rumble room over there. Appreciate you all very much for being here. If you're not sticking around for the rest of the show, for the members only portion, we will see you back here on Thursday at 12 p.m. for Russell's final show before China. So make sure you catch that one. Mark your calendars. Call out sick from work. Do what you got to do. Or watch it at work. Who cares? But make sure you don't miss that show. That's going to be a good one. Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern. Until then, thanks to all the YouTubers. Thanks to the Rumblers. Thanks to the mods for keeping the peace in the chat. The show will continue for members in just about 5 minutes. Everybody else, we'll see you Thursday. Until then, thanks for spending the afternoon with us. Be safe and be well.
Courage!
Please clap.